Katz's Deli in New York City goes through 70,000 pounds of meat a week and can serve up to 4,000 people on a busy day. Across the river in New Jersey, Tops Diner serves about 13,000 people each week. And food workers at NFL stadiums weather the logistical challenge of making thousands of meals for sold-out games. We went behind the scenes of 13 industries and one country making some of the biggest batches of food across the globe.
This is the kitchen behind one of America's largest diners. Tops in East Newark, New Jersey, serves 13,000 people a week. Customers travel from all over the world to chow down on its 325 menu items.
I not only like Tops, I love Tops.
I went to Tops on a Wednesday morning, thinking it'd be a little slower. And I was very wrong.
Growing up a couple blocks away, you always hear, how busy Tops Diner is. And until you work here, you never realize how much product this restaurant goes through.
We use between 200 and 300 pounds hash browns from Monday to Friday. And weekends is over 300 pounds, easy.
Each week, chefs crack 21,600 eggs. They'll end up in classic diner favorites like omelets and pancakes.
If you want pancakes at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, we got it. No judgment? No judgment.
They're also serving some local New Jersey delicacies, like these disco fries smothered in cheese and this homemade gravy.
We're going old school and we're roasting the bones. We're roasting the vegetables. We're not taking any shortcuts here.
The dish is so popular, each week they go through 2,400 pounds of fries.
We need a walk-in dedicated just for French fries. We need a fryer just for French fries.
It takes a team of dozens of chefs rotating through these kitchens. They have to be ready to fire just about anything.
People are ordering pastas, with Alfredo sauce at 8:30 in the morning.
The original Tops, founded in 1942, was a lot smaller.
My dad, he was Mr. Tops. He would be serving coffee in an Armani suit.
Jimmy Golimus's father brought the joint back in 1972 after moving here from Greece.
If you came to my restaurant in the 80s and 90s at 2, 3 in the morning, you wouldn't believe. You'd have wise guys, drug dealers, and then a police officer, a nurse, it was insane.
Jimmy's dad remodeled twice, but the big transformation came in 2020. Jimmy and his brothers took out a $15 million loan to rebuild, adding takeout and more seats, parking, and kitchen space to keep up with soaring demand.
Today, we're bringing in the world's biggest drink corral.
But then the pandemic hit.
We lost my dad during COVID too. It broke us, it broke us.
To honor their father, the brothers got the new space up and running. It's 3 times the size of the original.
This is your typical diner configuration line. What we did was we stretched it out a little bit. There's no backstation, no one's hiding in this whole restaurant. So everyone that works here is at the same level.
The working conditions are a lot better, and that's important. Or else, how are you gonna last? Is that the old diner? You ready? It's 120 degrees in the kitchen, guys. You'd see line cooks, right? That started first day, and they would be I'm taking my break, and they never show up again.
This area is for prep. Here, chefs are boiling loads of spaghetti, smashing dozens of avocados for guacamole, and hand wrapping these Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. At this station, chefs are hand breading chicken for the #1 seller, chicken and waffles. They're also dishing out creative takes on typical diner fare, like Latin steak and eggs and Mexico City burgers.
I would say the menu here is probably the most expansive diner menu in New Jersey.
This is so overwhelming, yeah.
That's Peter Genovese. He literally wrote the book on New Jersey diners.
Tops Diner, East Newark, could make a claim to being New Jersey's best known diner. It is certainly the most acclaimed diner. Just listen to this place. You feel like you're at some sort of interstate truck stop. Everybody's talking. There's all different kinds of mix of people.
the disco fries?
First, Peter had me order New Jersey's finest.
Oh my goodness.
We wanted the large size.
This is huge. It's a mountain. Oh my God.
It just became the quintessential Jersey late night food. Go to the disco or nightclub, or you're already hungover, you're drunk. What goes down better than this?
I just want to show you the comparison to my head. This has some girth to it. I can see why people would like this after a night out when they just want to be like cozy and warm, but also a little like sultry and do like a bad thing.
And we weren't the only ones enjoying the food. With 400 seats, Tops is nothing like your typical diner.
More people on the older side miss that small, intimate feel. But once the check comes, I walk over to the table and they're happy.
Tops' new space still pays homage to its past, with its neon sign out front, chrome details, bar stools, and booths.
I didn't believe in getting rid of the good stuff. I just wanted to change the culture and work more efficiently.
But those changes seem to stretch the definition of a diner. For one, it's huge, a far cry from the skinny eateries of the 1930s. And it's got liquor. Bartenders sling out cocktails any time of day.
We got a DJ spinning over here. I'm bumping music.
Tops also has its own butcher room.
We cut our own meats. We also have meats cut from us, from Pat LaFreda, who we use.
And a bake shop on site.
The cookies here. What are we cooking in here, guys, right now?
We got cheesecake and bread leche.
Is that cheesecake right there? Yeah. So that's like your old school classic cheesecake. We got it in a water bath. It's the same way we've been doing it since the 70s. We got the recipe from the Claremont Diner in Newark. We're talking like Mount Rushmore of diners. It's not just for our dessert menu. The Big Shop makes all the pancake batter, the waffle batter, French toast. They juice over here. They do syrups for there's so many things that they do that help the restaurant flow.
This Tres Leches is one of their best sellers. But it's not just the cake. A lot of the menu takes inspiration from well beyond New Jersey.
You'll be coming here for months and you'll never try the same thing.
I'm seeing jerk chicken.
Yeah.
Huevos rancheros, a Dominican breakfast, eggs Italiano, the meatloaf, chicken parm.
I love the meatloaf.
Panela vodka, a Mexico City burger.
These are what, cheesesteak egg rolls? Yeah, cheesesteak, it's a South Jersey thing.
So a little like Philly, Asian, but somehow we're in New Jersey combination.
Yeah, there's no special way to eat it. You can have the chicken separately from the waffles. You can put the chicken on the waffles. Chicken looks good, like nice and crispy.
Kind of tastes like a grandma's back there cooking this chicken and waffles.
Before every game day, hundreds of people get Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta ready for NFL kickoff. But tonight's job is one of the hardest of the season because they have under 18 hours and a big mess to clean up first.
These back-to-back flips. It's the thing that everybody dreads in this industry.
Just a few times a year, the stadium has major events on consecutive nights, sending cleanup crews, groundskeepers, and chefs into an overnight scramble. They have to strip and repaint the field, clean 2 million square feet of stadium, and fire up thousands of meals in cramped kitchens.
We're feeding 70,000 people, so you multiply that even by 2, it's 140,000 people.
Senior executive chef Matt Cooper's team was ranked the NFL's best for stadium food in 2025.
I always explain it as a million-piece jigsaw puzzle. If one thing is off, it throws the entire plan off.
I think our main kitchen was closed for 9 days last year out of the whole calendar year. They're just being cooked in all day long, so those take some time and attention.
By 5 a.m., senior executive chef Matt Cooper and his team begin their day in the stadium's central kitchen. They've already spent the past 2 weeks preparing for today's game.
We have to plan every single move that we make down to the day and the minute, really. We use a lot of analytics to come up with how much we need to produce for every single concession stand in the building. Once those orders get placed, they come in, and it takes about an entire week to produce for one game.
But the job isn't done because they have to prep, assemble, and transport all the meals to 8 smaller kitchens.
This is the magic behind everything we do. So we have all the chefs, all the supervisors, junior sous chefs, all the cooks. I love being able to kind of visualize and see the whole team.
Cooks get their marching orders on another board.
So they come up to the board, look at what's next on the production sheet. So we have about 60 different food drops today, all different menus.
That includes all the meals for concession stands, 200 private suites, and 50 catered events.
If one thing is off, if one event is late, it throws the entire plan off.
Chefs prep thousands of pounds of brisket and pork, which they smoke in-house, and assemble hundreds of salads, all while competing for space.
All the way down to the science of how many pans fit inside an oven at different times throughout the day. If we could have another stadium right on top of this stadium, that would be lovely.
Matt keeps an eye on last-minute deliveries throughout the day.
Bread is usually the last thing that we bring in on a game day. It takes up the entire dock. So between hot dogs and hamburgers, we're talking tens of thousands of different buns that come into this building.
Since 2017, Mercedes-Benz Stadium has repeatedly cut concession prices, making food cheaper than at most major U.S. sports venues. The lower prices boosted fan transactions by about 30% and increased food sales before kickoff. So by 10 a.m., concession stands are up and running, with chefs assembling burger and chicken tender trays for the first rush of customers. Barbecue platters hit the private suites just before the gates open to fans at 11 a.m. Around this time, fruit and sandwich platters arrive at clubs. Crews place fan giveaway items on every seat. On the field, NFL officials and equipment teams have been wheeling out gear since 7 a.m.
There's probably no short of 40 to 50 road cases that come out with additional helmets and backup equipment, and a lot of tech equipment, Microsoft Surface carts, all their telephone systems, their headsets. There are nights where we just laid wet paint and their equipment's got to kind of sit on the outside and wait for paint to dry, and then we can get it in.
During the lull before the next event, Adam takes a short break.
We go to the 300 level and kind of take a seat in the bowl, snap our photo, and usually spend about 10 minutes up there and just kind of recap the night. That's usually a really good feeling because you've pulled off something difficult. You're complete, you're done with it now.
At 1 p.m., the game kicks off.
My favorite part of the whole day is just kickoff. When you know all the work that you put into it leads to the flashing lights, the cameras going off, the cheers, watching the players take the field and kick off, for me, will never get old, and that's why I do what I do.
But Adam has to stay locked in during the game.
You could have a roof leak in an upper area of the seating bowl that maybe you just don't know until a fan is sitting there and they identify a roof leak. Premium spaces are just highly trafficked. They're actively cleaned during the game.
The visiting Seattle Seahawks pull off a win against the home team Falcons. But the crews powering Mercedes-Benz Stadium can take a bow for pulling off another successful overnight flip.
It takes an army to do what we do. The team atmosphere that we have here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium truly is magical.
Matt's team sold more than 25,000 hot dogs, 10,000 slices of pizza, and over 5,000 pounds of wings. Uneaten food is donated to local charities such as Second Helpings Atlanta.
It's really difficult to prep and nail it. You never want to run out of anything. And we try to capture that food working with a local partner, and that food is donated back to our community.
Crews head home about an hour after the game ends. Then they begin prepping for the next event tomorrow.
I like staying busy. We want to program this building and flip as many events as possible. What we do by nature in our business is bring humans together and celebrate. The stadium is an inanimate object. It's really cool, but it's about the people that run the stadium, the people that make these events happen. So if you don't take care of the people that do this, you're missing the point. That's what keeps me going every day.
Shrimp is the most consumed seafood in the United States. And in Louisiana, it's big business. The wild-caught crustaceans bring in about $1.3 billion for the state every year. But for the last few years, shrimpers have been hit with the perfect storm of rising fuel costs and rock-bottom prices.
That's one of the toughest jobs you could ever do. And if you're not getting your dues for it, why do it?
Producers say a flood of cheaper imported shrimp from India and Ecuador is sinking Louisiana's industry. But there's no way to feed America's skyrocketing demand without imports, which make up 90% of the shrimp the U.S. consumes. Up against these headwinds, companies up and down Louisiana's supply chain are closing up shop.
If you worked hard and you did the right thing, you could become a millionaire in the 80s and the 90s. Now you could barely make a living.
So how did the industry get this bad? And is it too late to save it? New Orleans chef Justin Kennedy insists on buying only wild shrimp caught by fishermen in the Gulf of Mexico.
We have never fried a foreign shrimp and ever served it to our customer. I'll never even look at it as an option.
He runs Parkway Bakery and Tavern, a New Orleans fixture since 1911, famous for these massive po' boys.
It's just one of those perfect little things that bring all walks of life together, and damn if it's a sandwich, you know?
He can go through 3,000 pounds of shrimp a week.
So what this is a sink that we just have chilled water piped to, and it's just a quick thawing out our seafood. And if you look at them, they're peeled. We take that vein out because it's a cleaner shrimp. It butterflies it a little bit more to kind of hold the batter and just make it a better bite. I'm gonna scoop a heaping pile of it up. So we're gonna dust this up.
He coats them in only corn flour.
We just use the natural juices and moisture from the shrimp to pick up that flour. You lightly shake that off. 350 degrees, that's pure vegetable oil. This one right here is getting that golden brown color, right? Looking like little baby fried chicken. Watch this, you break that open. Look at that. Look at that little coating. Look at that Louisiana white meat in there. You know, you can't get no better than that.
That shrimp will eventually meet one of these giant loaves.
I think I'm almost 2 breads tall. Let's see. The French people kind of laugh at it because we call it French bread, but it's New Orleans French bread. This ain't French bread.
Justin hits the bread with some mayo, lettuce, and tomato.
And then we start dealing the shrimp.
2 handfuls?
Oh no, we put more than that. Yeah, I mean
4 handfuls?
It's a big sandwich, but you'll notice when you see this thing laid out in front of you, you'll be like, how am I going to eat all that? And then all of a sudden it's gone. So we do one fold, tuck these in, wrap it. We're gonna put one more on there. There you go. Parkway Bakery Shrimp Po' Boy.
Where's that go now?
In my belly, baby.
About 1,000 people line up every day for these sandwiches, and Justin credits Local Shrimp for his award-winning recipe.
You know, I've had people try to sample me foreign. The batter won't stick on it. It's translucent when you cook it. You never see this pretty white meat. It still looks clear. It still looks like this when you cook it. But this Louisiana shrimp's true and true every time. Can't beat it.
Justin gets most of his shrimp from this factory, right up the road. Kristen Baumer is one of the few processors left in the area who only works with Gulf shrimp, just like his family has for over 130 years.
We've definitely seen a lot of processors go out of business. It's become more of a volume game because the margins are so tight.
His company processes 30 million pounds of shrimp annually.
So what we're doing is easy peeling shrimp. We're hand feeding it into a machine that splits the back of the shell, cuts the shell open, and then it allows, when you cook it, more flavor to get into the shrimp as well as making it easier to peel.
Kristen's team flash freezes all the crustaceans in this room. That's how they're able to transport the shrimp all over the country.
So they're picking shrimp for the second time to make sure they get all the defects out of it before it goes up.
This shaker separates the pieces so they won't stick together when they're frozen. Then they take a trip down this tunnel at minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
And after the shrimp hits the liquid nitrogen, it forms a crust on the shrimp, and then it moves slowly through the belt to freeze from the outside in. Don't stick your finger in unless you have a warrant that you want to burn up.
This machine portions the seafood into 5-pound bags of about 15 pieces. Each bag gets a traceability barcode.
Link it all the way back to the shrimp dock that it came from.
This processed product comes out to anywhere from $7 to $10 a pound, depending on the season.
With inflation, everything is getting more and more expensive, and running these processing plants and all this moving equipment and avoiding breakdowns takes a lot of capital.
People have been fishing and processing this shrimp in Louisiana for centuries, from Cajun fishermen to the indigenous people of the United Homa Nation. In the 1800s, shrimp was a staple food of the poor, and sellers couldn't transport it far because shrimp spoiled so easily in the Louisiana heat. That was until the mid-1800s, when several advancements brought shrimp beyond the local scene. Chinese immigrants introduced traditional drying techniques that could preserve the shrimp, and the first canning factory in New Orleans opened up in 1875. But fresh shrimp transported on ice was expensive, so it took on a reputation as a luxury item, tossed into shrimp salads and perched in cocktails. By the 1950s, techniques to freeze shrimp and new refrigerated trucks sealed the deal. They allowed for seafood delivery as far away as the East Coast and Chicago. This was about the time that the shrimp imports into the U.S. from Mexico and then India began to take off. By 1970, demand across the U.S. had nearly tripled, and domestic shrimpers caught more to keep up, with Louisiana leading the pack. By the 90s, the state's shrimp and shellfish generated nearly $2 billion and supported 22,000 jobs. And come the turn of the century, shrimp became the most consumed seafood in America. At the same time, new tech helped farms in Asia and South America raise a lot more shrimp. In less than a decade, farming production skyrocketed nearly 200%, overtaking global catches of wild shrimp. In 2023, the U.S. imported 1.7 billion pounds, nearly as much as its population consumes. And these imports are often cheaper than wild-caught U.S. shrimp. That's because labor costs are lower in big shrimp farming countries like India and Ecuador, and their governments have subsidized these operations. In the U.S., domestic shrimp prices have dropped to compete with the low import prices. Meanwhile, shrimpers like Captain Lonnie Mayu Jr. are facing skyrocketing costs of operating a boat.
You're wasting fuel and ice if you don't catch anything.
Since the 1980s, he says a block of ice has gone from $14 to $26 today. A set of new nets more than doubled, and a gallon of gas more than tripled in price. At 82 years old, Lonnie, who goes by Knuckles, hasn't given up trawling these waters, even after 6 decades. Starting in May, he heads out to catch brown shrimp, usually around sunset.
You have to go do your homework and know where they're going to be at.
He works independently, like most of the shrimpers here.
Right about there. A little too far.
During the day, brown shrimp may bury themselves in the sediment to hide from predators. But after dark, they often come out and roam in shallow water. Knuckles and his deckhand Steve drop these nets that skim the top of the water.
We're not dragging anything on the bottom.
He positions himself against the current, so the shrimp fall right into his nets.
The shrimp are not like fish. They can't really swim that great. They take a ride on the current.
Knuckles and Steve will pick out and keep just the shrimp. Sea turtles have an escape hatch in the net, and other animals get thrown back into the sea, where some dolphins are waiting to chow down on them.
If we don't pick up in that favor often enough, they'll take and bite it out the net.
They can literally rip a 4-foot hole in it, which is going to take a lot of time to fix.
Like this one. Knuckles pulls up the net so he can sew it closed.
You're going to lose everything, you know? You're going to be working for literally nothing.
This work can be grueling. Some shrimpers have big enough vessels they can stay out for weeks at a time. Knuckles has a smaller boat, so he fishes just until morning.
But it keeps you in shape.
But even after all this work, there's a chance they could have a bad run. Tonight, most of the nets were full of catfish.
Ooh, catfish.
See it, belly? It's full of shrimp.
Full of shrimp. They went in the net, ate all the shrimp. We ain't got a pound of shrimp. It's all catfish. I'm gonna try pushing up, going a little further up in the lake or something.
Knuckles spent $45,000 buying and fixing up his boat. It was meant to be his ticket to retirement. But now he's unsure that plan will work.
You know, for me to get out the business, I gotta sell it. I got no retirement, but I can't sell a boat, can't give it away. Nobody wants it.
And most shrimpers agree it's getting harder to justify going out.
For this boat to leave the dock, it's gonna cost me over $1,000. It's killing us. The farmers is killing us.
Right now, nobody want to do it no more because they're struggling.
Milena Cheeve has been fishing for 8 years. Like 60% of the state's shrimp boat owners, she and her husband are originally from Southeast Asia.
With our education, there's nothing else we could do besides fishermen, especially like me and my husband, like in our mid-50s.
Milena and her husband weren't able to go to college, but they hoped shrimping would help their kids do the opposite.
Not enough to pay, especially when you have 2 kids in college. You're struggling.
Dock owners are feeling the impact too.
Because if we don't bring no shrimp, they don't make no money either. You know, when the shrimp boats go out, they're gonna kill the docks too.
That's a pretty shrimp.
Dean Blanchard's family has been buying and selling local shrimp for 5 generations.
I was born in a shrimp dock. When I was a baby, they used to put me in a shrimp box.
His dock, 2 hours south of New Orleans, was once one of the biggest shrimp suppliers in the country. But last year, he paid the lowest prices he ever has for the larger shrimp.
30-some years ago, they went down from $5 to $1.30.
That's because he's selling it for so little to the peeling factories.
Right now, it's the cheapest I ever seen in my life. I'm sick to my stomach. I ain't never seen nothing like this. Never in my life seen it this bad.
After 6 decades in the industry, Dean's no stranger to financial challenges. From the 2010 BP oil spill to big storms. His dock had $2 million in damages after Hurricane Ida hit in 2021.
Where you're standing right there wasn't even there after the storm. I mean, I've rebuilt this building at least 8, 9 times.
He never fixed up this part of his marina.
Oh, it brings tears to your eyes. I mean, everything you work for all your life is gone.
But imports, he says, have done even more damage.
We're directly correlated with imports. If a completely processed product is coming in for just over $4 a pound, that means our dockside prices have to be lower, the processors' prices are lower. So to be able to try to get that market share and keep it. So you're making the same amount of money that you would in 2000, but 22 years later.
Fewer boats can afford to go out, so less shrimp is landing on Dean's dock.
We're down to right under 20% of what we normally are for this time of the year.
On this day we visited in May 2023, not a single shrimp boat pulled up to unload.
It ain't gonna last too much longer like this. Thank God I'm almost 65 years old and I ain't got no kids in this business.
Dean estimates that 96% of the docks operating when he started out have since closed down.
I feel bad for the people because I know once I'm gone, they're gonna have to drive 50, 60, 70 miles to go sell their product.
Just like Knuckles, when Dean retires, he doesn't think anyone will buy the company.
Nobody can afford to take it over. The property is worth more than the business.
Louisiana still hauls in the most shrimp of any U.S. state, over 70 million pounds in 2023. But that's a small fraction, the roughly 2 billion pounds the U.S. consumes.
The American landings of shrimp cannot cover the overall consumption of shrimp.
Nearly 90% of the shrimp Americans eat is imported, and much of it is sourced using controversial practices. In 2021, an International Trade Commission analysis indicated that shrimp might be the U.S. seafood market most affected by illegal fishing. Like this boat, off the coast of Gambia. It had an illegal undersized net, and although the shrimp was labeled sustainable, 99.9% of the seafood on board were other species, like sharks and octopuses.
And a lot of time, that bycatch dies on the deck and just gets thrown back into the ocean.
But the majority of the shrimp the U.S. imports is farm-raised.
A lot of our shrimp comes from India, where there are huge environmental concerns, as well as ongoing allegations of human rights abuses and forced labor.
A 2024 Associated Press report found women in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh were peeling frozen shrimp without protective gear, which can lead to frostbite.
It's kept incredibly cold to keep bacteria from proliferating. I don't know about you, but I don't want to hold ice cubes in my hand all day while I'm also trying to do very nimble work with my fingers. One of the huge issues is that these shrimp farms are isolated. They're far out on the coast. There's not OSHA. There's no one protecting and making sure that the conditions are safe.
But they have few other options for work.
A lot of times when these aquaculture facilities are built, other economic resources in these areas disappear.
అందుకు ఫ్యాక్టరీకి వెళ్ళిపోతున్నామండి ఐస్ ఏం పడదండి మొన్న వెళ్తున్నాను వెళ్ళానండి నేను కాళ్ళ నొప్పులు కానీ నడుము నొప్పులు కానీ ఉంటాయండి నుంచొని ఉంటాం కదమ్మా తెల్లగడ్డలు వెళ్ళి
Arugula baby is still trying to pay off an $8,500 loan she took out when her son was dying of liver disease. Since he passed, she's been raising her grandchildren alone. To get to the peeling shed, she has to pay for transportation and 25 cents to a recruiter. She earns below $4 every day, $2 under the country's minimum wage.
A lot of times we will see a woman being threatened for her own safety or her family's safety unless she works, unless she meets certain quotas.
Beyond the human cost, there's also an environmental one. In India, most of the farms are along coastlines, where water is plentiful and mangrove forests thrive.
Those mangroves go through deforestation. They're pulled out. They're blown up with dynamite. So we lose that nursery habitat for other sea creatures, and we lose our coastline protection.
When that happens, shrimp can have 10 times the carbon footprint of beef.
Next, these really big ponds are dug into the land. So the shrimp live in these ponds.
Chemicals and excrement from shrimp pens can leach out into surrounding environments. They can cause algae blooms and dead zones, disrupt ecosystems, and contaminate water. Shrimp farms around the world have been criticized for using antibiotics to treat illness in their ponds.
If you've ever ridden the subway home at rush hour, you know how it is. You're in tight, you're squeezed in tight. There's great opportunities for sickness to spread. And it's that exact same situation in these ponds, which is why antibiotic use is so incredibly high.
That overexposure can lead to antimicrobial resistant superbugs, a health concern that's estimated to have caused nearly 1.3 million deaths around the world in 2019. And some antibiotics, like nitrofurans, have been linked to liver damage and cancer. In the US and European Union, almost all of these kinds of drugs are banned.
So you could end up eating something that's illegal here.
In 2023, the US Food and Drug Administration turned away 51 shipments of shrimp because of banned antibiotics. But the organization checks just about 2% of imports.
So what happens with that other 96 to 98% of seafood that's coming in?
The major health concern here is the lack of testing of imported shrimp, the amount of banned substances that may be carried in these shrimp.
A 2017 LSU study found that 30 out of 42 samples tested from stores around Baton Rouge had antibiotics or antimicrobials.
And that's largely due to the fact that the FDA is responsible for more than 50 million imports annually. And there's just not enough work power to inspect everything coming in.
In the last year, the U.S. Department of Commerce has imposed duties on shrimp from India, Vietnam, and Ecuador. But these efforts, Louisianan shrimpers tell us, haven't been enough to help their incomes. Imported shrimp is still flooding the market. That's why locals like Kristen have been advocating for more regulation. He's a part of the Louisiana Shrimp Task Force, which works with the state government on long-term solutions.
We need country of origin labeling on restaurant menus, so at least when people buy, they're buying and making a choice.
In 2019, the Louisiana legislature passed a law requiring restaurants to disclose if their shrimp is imported. But some restaurants still passed off imported as domestic. The state's health department has handed down 2,600 violations since the law went into effect, but no restaurants were ever fined. In May 2024, the governor signed a bill for heavier fines on restaurants that mislabel seafood. If they're busted, they could be fined up to $2,000. While Justin says he'll never touch imported shrimp, he can understand why restaurants turn to it when the local stuff gets expensive.
They're looking for a good product that will get the register to ring, and so you can't blame them either.
With dock prices so low, he paid $4 a pound in 2023, almost half of what he was paying 2 years ago.
I understand that. When I get a cheap price, I know the shrimpers out there in the boats are probably getting hammered. But if it went back to $7 a pound, I'd still buy it. I just have to go up on my price.
A price he says he's lucky his customers would probably pay.
You're talking to one of the busiest po' boy shops in the city. What about the corner stores who are just living from day to day? There has to be some kind of medium. I just hope it'll work itself out. This has been little, small holes pecking away for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you know? And it's coming where, it's starting to take water. We're going down, you know, in this seafood industry.
The fact is, the U.S. eats so much shrimp that the stuff caught in the Gulf could never cover it all. So farm crustaceans will probably always fill that gap.
Got to import, because we can't supply the whole United States. But put a quota on it.
It has to come down from Washington. It has to be some work done up there with like regulating the import.
Dean wants federal assistance for shrimpers.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a farmer left in business if they had to live like we live. They're being subsidized for this. Shrimpers should be considered farmers of the sea, but we're not.
More inspections of seafood at U.S. ports and better traceability of shrimp from boat to plate would also help. But some experts say it comes down to better consumer awareness of the health benefits of wild-caught shrimp over farmed, like how the salmon industry got people to pay more for wild-caught thanks to messaging that it was more nutrient-dense.
If people would know exactly what they're buying and they know exactly what they're feeding their kids, they wouldn't mind paying a couple of cents more for a product that don't have antibiotics.
In the grocery store aisle, don't be fooled by tricky labeling, like product of USA or prepared in the USA. That could be referring to where the shrimp was last processed, not necessarily where it was caught. Flip to the back of the package and look for the phrase farm-raised or wild-caught in, followed by a country name. That should tell you where it's from.
Purchase U.S. farmed or U.S. wild-caught shrimp. In the U.S., farm shrimp are held to very strict regulations in regards to what antibiotics they can use and how much.
And when you're at a restaurant,
I always ask, where is that shrimp from? And if that restaurant can't answer that, then I don't order it. Or maybe we should just eat a little less shrimp and take it back to being a special occasion item.
Backed by consumer awareness, maybe then shrimpers can save their sinking ship.
We have to have it, and we will always have it. Parkway Bakery will always have Louisiana shrimp. I'll get on a boat my damn self, you know?
Jewish delis have been synonymous with the New York food scene for over a century. But eating at Katz's Delicatessen is basically a New York rite of passage. Best known for its pastrami, the restaurant goes through 70,000 pounds of meat a week and can serve up to 4,000 people on its busiest day. It's no easy feat, but fifth-generation owner Jake Dell and his team know how to handle the rush.
You know, no one here is really a newbie. We have staff here that have been here 20, 30, 40 years. So everyone knows the drill and knows okay, when do we scale up, when do we scale down? And that's the most important part of it, is how do you do it in a way that keeps up with demand in real time, but also doesn't go too far ahead of the curve. And that's just 137 years of practice.
You're going to see exactly how the staff behind these counters delivers a flawless service to the masses.
Enjoy your sandwich. Next online.
Doors open daily at 8 a.m. While the mornings may be quieter, that doesn't mean the team isn't already hard at work, preparing for the day ahead.
We're known first and foremost for our meats, right? But we're also really well known for our matzo ball soups and for our latkes, those traditional Jewish deli fare that you can't find that much anymore.
They make their matzo balls and latkes in-house and prep the batches in bulk so they can easily handle the volume of people they serve every day.
We're always ahead of the game. We're always prepping, and we do it the old-fashioned way, and we take that really seriously. We're here to do it the way that our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our great-great-great-grandmothers did it, and not change that tradition at all.
There are around 30 staff members working every shift, and each person is crucial to the success of this well-oiled machine.
People are trained to work in every station. We don't just stop and say, okay, you're going to be a floor guy forever, or you're only going to be a cashier forever. We like to have people work in different stations, not only so that we can mix and match if we need to, but so that people understand the store more completely and then can give better service more completely. Because there's always something that's going to go wrong in a restaurant, and you just have to be ready and prepared and know how to course correct in the moment.
Everyone knows what they have to do, getting ready for the moment the inevitable lunch rush hits. As you walk through the doors, you're immediately handed a ticket.
That's your check, right? It's an old system, but it works. You get that ticket, and you move from station to station. Maybe you get a hot dog, you get a sandwich, you get some soup along the way, some fries, some drinks, and you pay on the way out. As crazy as it is, as much chaos and confusion as it can cause, it still allows us to serve 4,000 customers in a day.
It's not a system that's used very often anymore, and it comes with one golden rule. Do not lose your ticket.
Oh, you need to write on my ticket.
Yeah, you just gotta write the price on it, give it back to you, that's your check. Don't lose it. If you lose it, we keep you here.
Once you have your ticket, there are 4 counters you can order from along the far wall of the restaurant. But the most popular by far is the sandwich counter.
We have the cutter station, as you can see behind me. There's cutters 1 through 8. You pick a line, get what you want from the cutter, talk directly to them. I like it a little juicy, I like it a little lean. Give me pastrami, give me corned beef, give me a combo. You do that right here. These guys are experts. They've been doing it for many, many, many years.
1 pastrami, 1 Reuben. For that Reuben, you want pastrami or you want corned beef? Try the pastrami, that's the best. Number 1 in your heart right there.
The heart of Katz's menu is its legendary pastrami sandwich, a whopping 12 ounces of tender, hand-carved meat layered between slices of rye bread. The presentation may look simple, but it allows the quality of the meat to shine on its own.
We cure everything ourselves, we smoke everything ourselves, so we go through 40,000 pounds of pastrami every week, 20,000 pounds of corned beef, thousands of pounds of turkeys and briskets and hot dogs and salamis. We do about 70,000 pounds of meat every single week, depending on the type of meat.
The corned beef and pastrami are prepared using a slower method, curing for up to 30 days, which enhances the flavor without injecting other additives to speed up the process. As a result, they become so tender that hand cutting to order is the only option.
We hand cut the meat here because we cook it longer than anyone else. By the time that's done being boiled, being steamed, if you tried to put it on the slicer, forget it. It would just crumble right through that slicer. So we gotta hand carve it. And part of hand carving it, the slicers end up being a little bit thicker than a machine would be, a little more sloppy, if you will, but that also gives it an added texture. You take a bite, it's delicious.
Enjoy your sandwich. Next.
From the counter, customers can watch a masterclass in knife skills from the cutters. They're like surgeons with their knives, expertly trimming away sections of the meat before slicing it for the iconic sandwiches.
Yeah.
There are around 30 cutters on staff, with an additional 20 or so in training, and each person has spent years honing their craft.
We don't let a cutter become a cutter until they've been here for 5-10 years. You know, you got to work your way up because a cutter is the symbol of the store in many ways, a representative of the Katz's legacy. And so we want to make sure that that person is here with us for the long haul. And so my cutters are here 20, 30 years minimum. But, you know, everyone wants to be a cutter. We just got to test those knife skills and see if you're cut out for it.
Yeah. You've done that before?
A couple of times.
Once or twice?
21 years.
Really?
And counting, yes, sir.
You look that old.
I was a kid when I started working. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
16 years old, man.
Wow.
There are 8 available cutter stations, and each cutter on a busy day can make anywhere between 200 and 250 sandwiches. In order to keep up with that level of demand, staff members are in constant motion, restocking the stations with more meat, pickles, bread, and plates so customers can taste the meat they choose.
The taste is part of the Katz's experience. It's to help you make sure you like that particular cut of meat. But there's a lot of first-timers here, right? And there's a bit of a learning process happening here. Oh, I didn't know that I liked a juicy pastrami or a lean corned beef, which is crazy to me. That's a separate issue. But you can sort of talk to the cutter and try to get a sense of what you're into. That said, don't take too long.
All of the sandwiches cost between $21.95 and $29.95, which may seem pricey, but according to Jake...
Look, if I told you a 12-ounce steak was $29, wouldn't you be happy? So a 12-ounce sandwich is $29. You should be happy.
Thank you so much. If I want to order a drink, I go to the drink. Okay, thanks so much.
Beyond the sandwich station, there are 3 other counters customers can visit to get food.
So right now we're at the first part of the store, the first station. This is the grill. This is where you would get things like knishes, hot dogs. But this is kind of a good first stop. This is your appetizer. You get a hot dog while you wait online to get a sandwich. Next we have this soda and the fry station. You could also get potato salad, coleslaw, macaroni salad here. All your sides, french fries, drinks. I would recommend you get your sandwich first because that's usually the longer line. This is usually a much shorter line, so you can kind of grab it quickly. This is our final counter right here. We call it the back counter. This is the wholesale counter. This is where you can get bagels. This is where you can order your latkes, your blintzes, things like that.
Once you have your food, the next task is finding an available seat.
When we're at full steam, we're really just firing on all cylinders. It looks like chaos, but we like to think of it as organized chaos. You know, we know how to move people in and out of the store. Those lines may look crazy in front of the cutters, but there's a little method to the madness. So everyone is important. Look, if you don't have the busboys, you don't have a clean table, customer can't sit there, now they're walking around, now you're gonna back up the line over there, right? So, and you can go through that through every single position that exists in the store, and it's a dance. You got new people replacing old people at the tables, and it's chaotic, and the atmosphere here is so alive and so fun.
After a few hours of operating at full capacity, the team finally gets a chance to breathe before the dinner shift. Given that it's been open since 1888, nostalgia may play a part in Katz's popularity. But there's another reason the deli has stood the test of time. It's the team's commitment to providing the highest level of service to every customer that walks through the door, while still maintaining the traditions that started it all.
In 138 years, there's really not much that has changed. We're here to help maintain deli traditions that we largely don't see anymore. You know, this is one snapshot in time, one group of people, one food tradition, and our job is to preserve that. So I hope that when my first timers leave here, they leave with a sense of awe, wonderment, thinking this is the best pastrami they've ever had in their life, thinking I can't wait to tell my friends, I can't wait to come back. Love that experience. And for my regulars, I hope they say that is exactly what I remembered.
Christopher Ranch processes about 12 billion cloves of garlic a year, making it the biggest producer in the United States. Workers clean, peel, and pack all of it at this massive warehouse in Gilroy, California.
As you can see, there's not a vampire to be seen.
Garlic ripens once a year and rots fast, so workers have just a few weeks to dig it all up.
When it comes to garlic, we have one shot, and that's all going to be done by hand.
The company is one of the last U.S. garlic producers. Most shut down when cheaper Chinese garlic began flooding the market in the 1990s. So how has Christopher Ranch survived the influx of imported cheap garlic? And how did it help turn what was once considered a niche ingredient into one of the most popular vegetables in the U.S.? Christopher Ranch produces more than half of all garlic grown in the United States. Here, its crops span an area about half the size of Manhattan.
In other words, 1 billion bulbs of garlic.
That's Ken Christopher, grandson of the original Christopher, who gave the ranch its name in 1956, when he first started growing garlic on just 10 acres.
Garlic is an asexual plant. It's essentially a clone of itself year after year. You're going to be guaranteed to have the same flavor profile throughout the decades. And so today we can enjoy the same Italian, bold, zesty flavor that my grandfather first selected 60 years ago.
They plant all of it in November. Bulbs grow underground over the span of 9 months. Once they're ready, farmers have about a month to dig everything up by hand. Machines would rip the garlic's thin layers of skin, making it harder to sell and quicker to rot.
There simply is no automated process. The hand selection process remains the best.
They'll ripen between June and August, so the company hires an extra 3,000 workers for just those few months. American farmers often struggle to recruit people for this work, so the ranch hires workers from Mexico on temporary agricultural visas.
One problem you're going to find with a lot of farmers in this area is labor. How can we possibly get enough people to produce the food that Americans eat?
And it takes hundreds more hands at giant warehouses like these to get produce like garlic store ready.
It's critical to get it into one of these rooms as fast as we can. Did I get it off the railing? Each one of 100 million pounds, wherever they're grown in California, all come home to here.
Workers wheel it all in these 2,000-pound bins. It's 90 degrees in here. Heat loosens up the skins, so these scraps can fall off. Then, the garlic goes onto this conveyor belt.
Because garlic is a root crop, sometimes you're going to have some staining all around the skins, and it's our job to make it give that perfect appearance that you're used to at the market.
Ken runs sales for the ranch and checks that all the bulbs look packaged pretty.
The crew's job is to go through and physically clean every single one of these bulbs.
Every day, workers inspect about 200,000 pounds worth. Then, machines sort the bulbs into 7 groups, depending on their size. The smallest bulbs fall through these tight chains. As the links get bigger, they let in bigger bulbs.
You're going to have the largest bulbs coming here on the left lanes, and as we go to the middle lanes, we'll have the middle-sized bulbs, and on the far right, we're going to have the smallest bulbs that we're going to pack for our customers.
Restaurants usually go for the big ones. Those have larger cloves. They're easier to chop into finer pieces and give chefs more control over how garlicky their food tastes.
Different customers require different kinds of garlic. Some customers want very large bulbs. Some customers want smaller bulbs and sleeves. Some customers want garlic in display trays. Some customers want their garlic in 30-pound boxes.
But only the smoothest, cleanest bulbs will make it into the shipments that leave this warehouse. Christopher Ranch says that's only about 60% of all the garlic they harvest. The rest will get processed in another room, but we'll get back to that. Another crew checks for any lingering dirty skin that might make the bulbs less valuable.
And then essentially the final part is they're just cleaning and then it goes into a box. And this is going to be found at retailers starting next week.
About 5% of the garlic Christopher Ranch produces leaves the country, going to Canada, Japan, Mexico, or New Zealand. All the rest stays in the US.
Our business model split into retail, food service, and industrial.
The company ships these boxes off to major chains like Costco, Kroger, Trader Joe's, and Safeway across all 50 states.
In some of our relationships with companies like Blue Apron, they've mentioned that garlic is the one constant they have in every single box of product they ship out nationwide.
On a typical day, they'll fill 7 semi-trucks with garlic. But things were different when Ken's grandfather started the company in 1956, when he only sold to a produce market in San Francisco.
When he started, he was almost a joke in town. Garlic was very much a niche crop, a niche vegetable.
The kind of garlic that's popular in the US today was brought over by Spanish explorers in the 1500s. But it wasn't until Italian immigrants came to California in the late 1800s that the crop found its home in Gilroy. Well into the 1950s, it was mostly popular among immigrant communities that faced discrimination. Only niche markets carried the vegetable, and it stayed out of the mainstream for decades. Things started to change in the late 80s, when American scientists confirmed the ingredient was really good for you. It contains a natural antibiotic called allicin, which can help prevent blood clots. Garlic became newsworthy, and its popularity continued to grow.
So you take a whole garlic head like that, and it takes a long time to take each clove off and peel it.
America's gotten a whole lot more diverse. So as America's cultural palates become more diverse, garlic's moved from being very side plate to being center plate.
In the 1990s, garlic finally became one of the most produced crops in America. The only problem was that the white skins stain easily, so a lot of it was hard to sell because Americans wouldn't buy bulbs that didn't look perfect. That's where Ken's grandfather Don saw an opportunity.
Because garlic is so time and labor intensive to grow, we want to find a home for every single pound.
Christopher Ranch was the first company in America to sell the crop peeled. They invented this machine that could peel hundreds of cloves in minutes and produce garlic Americans were willing to pay 50% more for. It gave the ranch an edge over its American competitors. Within the first few years, peeled garlic accounted for 10% of Christopher Ranch's revenue. Today, their machines peel more than 1 million pounds of garlic every week. First, the bruised up bulbs go into these giant drums called crackers, which use rubber rollers to break them down into cloves. Then, a 60-person crew sorts them again, chucking out the completely rotten ones. And the pretty guys? They go into a special room. Giant machines portion the cloves into cups and blast them with compressed air. Most peelers do that at around 116 pounds per square inch. That's about 3 to 4 times the air pressure of a car tire. Machines whip the garlic around at 1,200 revolutions per minute, and those stubborn shells fly right off. They upgrade their machines every few years. Their newest one can peel 100,000 pounds of garlic in an 8-hour shift.
These computers can identify which cloves are going to be okay for our final pack. They're going to identify where the gross defects are. They're going to identify sunburn. And using automation, we can fire small streams of air, kick out the bad cloves, and let the good ones go by. In effect, saving a whole lot on labor costs.
Today, peeled garlic accounts for 40% of the company's revenue. But Ken says they've constantly looked for new ways to keep up with growing competition from China. The US started to import cheap garlic from China shortly after the Cold War. But Chinese bulbs sold for almost 50% less than American ones. The US government accused Chinese producers of trying to gain a monopoly by selling garlic for less than what it takes to grow it, also known as dumping. By the mid-90s, Christopher Ranch sales had fallen by half, and the company started laying off workers. The US government tried to control it with anti-dumping duties in 1994. But Chinese imports continued, and by 2004, the US was importing over half of the garlic it consumed. Between 2001 and 2005, Christopher Ranch had slashed the land it farmed by 40%. And during this period, the US garlic industry was losing an estimated $600 million to Chinese imports. Meanwhile, in China, garlic was beating gold stocks, becoming the country's most lucrative asset.
Before the 1990s, nearly all the garlic consumed in America was grown in America. There used to be 12 commercial garlic growers in the country. Now we're down to 3.
And Ken often spoke about it, even on TV, as seen in this clip.
He's just back from Washington, D.C., where he lobbied to help win a new 10% tariff on Chinese garlic.
One of the hardest things I've ever done was actually going to D.C. and testifying and offering evidence that the Chinese continue to impact and negatively hurt the domestic garlic industry.
In 2018, then U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 10% tariff on garlic coming from China. That tariff rose to 25% in 2019, and President Biden has kept them in place. In the past decade, China imports dropped overall, but the country remains America's main foreign supplier.
Tariffs are applied before it even enters the country, so we found that they were incredibly effective.
Keeping the company profitable has required constant innovation, though. Over the years, they've launched dozens of new products that Americans would pay more for, like minced, crushed, pickled, or chopped garlic.
We've really had to upgrade our skill set in that respect. You're not always going to get perfect bulbs like the one you see here. We try to use every piece that we can.
And this facility churns out 100,000 pounds of roasted garlic every week, accounting for 5% of the company's sales.
We're going to have a 2-sided convection oven, heat up the garlic to about 250 degrees. You can kind of see through a layer of garlic.
Then they put it on these fans for 30 minutes.
Oh, you get... Sorry, I didn't think we were going. It goes into this cooler next.
It gets the temperature down to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which helps make the garlic shelf stable and ready to ship across the country. They pack some of it into these 30-pound boxes and send it off to their warehouse to store. Their robots can portion out and seal up to 500 packages every hour. In a single day, Christopher Ranch cranks out about 200,000 pounds of garlic. They also sell garlic skins to local farmers as animal feed.
Some of our garlic may not be perfect for restaurants, and so we're going to find a new home for it.
But Ken says, to stay competitive, they also had to sell Chinese garlic, but not under the Christopher Ranch name. And the packaging doesn't say grown in California, like these boxes do.
If you want to zoom on this is kind of the most important.
In 2018, a Netflix documentary, Rotten, accused the company of selling Chinese garlic peeled by prisoners under its own name. Christopher Ranch has denied those allegations.
They made a critical mistake. This is a streaming and living thing that continues to impact our brand and our business. We are an ethical company. We're a company that strives to be the best, and we only work with suppliers that bring it into this country and that have the same certifications and documentations that we'd expect of our garlic.
Today, Chinese garlic accounts for about 8 to 10% of the company's revenue. But American garlic is still the choice of all chefs who participate in the California Garlic Festival, one of the biggest garlic fairs in the U.S.
Ooh, garlic.
Julie Linesberg has been the head chef of the event since 2022. She bought 300 pounds of garlic from Christopher Ranch to prepare food for 3 days.
California garlic is a bit sweeter. When you flip it over, if you see that brown, hairy bottom, you know it's out of our ground, our beautiful soil. If it's nice and bleached and flat, you know it came from somewhere else very, very far away.
Julie runs a team of 40 kitchen staff at the official festival tent.
Let's open it all the way. So when they get here, it's a fast process.
She got here at 6:30 in the morning to prep before thousands of festival goers start arriving at noon.
No frying, we have no customers. Everything's got to be fresh, fresh, fresh.
All day, they'll prepare nothing but the two signature dishes created by Julie herself: garlic fries and garlic bread. It may sound simple, but she's thought of every detail carefully.
Our special concoction, and then they will put parm and or bacon.
Julie uses 200 pounds of Parmesan, imported only from Italy.
Make sure we're getting some of this from the bottom, okay?
How much garlic is in that?
A lot? Can I say a lot? So this is where the garlic bread happens. We're toasting it on a charbroiler.
In 3 days, they go through about 600 loaves of soft French bread from a local bakery and 300 pounds of butter.
Once it gets nice and toasty, it comes over here and it gets dipped in this special concoction that smells just a little bit like garlic. It's garlic and butter and some other things.
She uses pre-minced garlic she buys from Christopher Ranch as a base and adds some fresh ground on top.
And then we wrap it, and here's an order of garlic bread. Smell-o-vision, I don't know if the camera captures that, but. Then we'll run it by the boss, make sure it's the right size for him.
Every new batch needs to be approved by Tony Nocetti, the organizer of the festival.
Little spot.
Tony's in charge of the garlic pesto pasta, a recipe he learned from his Italian grandmother.
This ain't McDonald's here. This is Nonna stuff back at the ranch in the old days, you know? So I enjoy cooking, and that way I get to eat it.
Tony farms walnuts, but everyone here knows him as the guy who saved the Garlic Festival in California.
We had heard a few years ago that the Garlic Festival was going to close, and it's been the longest running festival here in California. Well, that's when I stepped in and said, we're going to continue to keep the Garlic Festival alive.
The city of Gilroy used to run the largest garlic festival, but decided to drop it in 2022. 3 years earlier, a mass shooting at the festival caused insurance rates to spike, and the COVID-19 pandemic slashed turnout in 2020, a year after that.
It was a legacy that we thought we couldn't let go. I mean, it's just part of our life cycle here in California, and we believe in local business, local products. That's very important, keeping our local economies going.
Though this is technically a different festival, Tony invested more than $500,000 out of his own pocket to continue the tradition near its former home in Gilroy.
It's important for agriculture, the community, the people. There's so many people involved in agriculture throughout California and throughout the world. Julie, wave to the camera. Without her, this wouldn't go. She gives me orders, and I think I'm the boss now. She's the boss in the kitchen.
This year, nearly 16,000 people attended the festival, more than double the attendance in 2023.
Cali Garlic Alley is open for business. Follow the smell. Garlic fries, garlic bread, and how about some garlic pasta? Garlic, garlic, garlic.
That's how I grew up as in a Filipino family. My mom cooks everything with garlic, so.
And it keeps the vampires away.
Yeah. Great.
About 150 vendors from all over the state signed up, using California garlic on chicken.
All right, here's the magic. More garlic.
Pork.
Our famous pork belly.
And even honey and butter.
Would you guys like to try a free sample?
We like it.
It would be a sad, sad place to be without garlic. Yes, Mama. Oh, I'm adding it right now.
One vendor here even puts garlic in ice cream.
Ice cream, garlic ice cream. It's different.
Yeah. He's Italian, so they eat a lot of garlic. And in my culture, which is Cambodian, we eat a lot of garlic too, but to infuse it into an ice cream, it's amazing. I love it. I'm not sharing.
Okay. But some festival goers told us it wasn't just about buying local.
It's amazing. It has healing properties. It's very good for your body. It acts like an antibiotic.
I garlic in the morning, in the afternoon. So I have to be careful when I'm engaging with people. Because they'll smell the garlic before they see me.
Ken says these are the customers who will keep the business going.
We're finding that Americans want the safest and healthiest product for them and their family.
Christopher Ranch has its own tent here, selling minced, peeled, and organic bulbs. The company used to supply all the garlic for the original festival back in Gilroy, since co-founding it in 1979. Nowadays, other producers participate too, But Ken says organic only recently became a trend here.
About 10 years ago, we started really investing in our organic program. And since then, we've scaled up.
They started off with about 1 million pounds of organic garlic, which was grown without pesticides, fertilizers, or hormones. That often means producing it takes more work, and the garlic has a greater chance at rotting, which is part of what makes organic more expensive. But Americans have been buying more of it anyway. Today, Christopher Ranch grows 15 million pounds of organic garlic, about 20% of its annual crop.
We found that to be our best profit margin center. As inflation goes up, as the cost of labor goes up, as we have more scarcity for land and water, really pivoting towards organics and a more high-end heirloom program is going to be the path forward.
As for the produce Christopher Ranch doesn't sell during the harvest season,
each one of the rooms behind me, we're going to store millions of pounds of garlic from our harvest. And as you can see, we have garlic that was harvested at the end of June of 2023. So last week, we just opened up the room behind me, and the garlic is every good as you could hope for. The garlic you see here essentially goes to sleep for 12 months.
They can pull garlic from here all year.
You can remove the oxygen from the room, lower the temperature, and keep your product safe.
But Ken says farming is always a gamble. Over the past decade, droughts in California have made it harder to grow in the area. And Silicon Valley is expanding, making land a lot more expensive than it used to be. Meanwhile, America's appetite for garlic is still growing. The country consumed over $4.5 billion worth in 2023. And Ken says, regardless of how or where his ranch harvests it, he's confident homegrown garlic will never go away.
How important is garlic to your family?
Garlic means nothing to no. Garlic is a part of our DNA. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. It's an inspiration for our whole family.
There are more than 400 Indian restaurants in New York City, but Semma is the only one that has a Michelin star. It's 3 p.m. in Manhattan's West Village, and in just 2 hours, 15 kitchen staff will serve more than 200 people from a kitchen the size of a studio apartment. And Chef Vijay Kumar is in charge of it all.
During the service, the kitchen it feels very intense. I mean, things may go wrong. Nothing is predictable. The goal is every single day, every single dish that comes to the kitchen is as perfect as possible, and we're trying for the best.
You're about to see everything it takes to run a full service at one of New York's busiest kitchens. And as usual, it's a packed house.
Semma is a restaurant where it serves food that's been eaten in the rural part of Tamil Nadu, another part of southern India, which is cooked unapologetically.
A few hours before service, the kitchen's already hard at work. Some dishes need hours of slow cooking to build flavor, and every detail has to be perfect. In a Michelin-starred kitchen this small, consistency comes from making everything from scratch, by hand, every day.
All right, so this is where the most magic happens. They cook almost 5 to 6 dishes at the same time. As you can see, all the big parts. They're cooking beef over there, they're cooking biryani right here, and the 2 other dishes. It's all happening at the same time. So this is Chef Rajesh. He's like a cousin. He's been following my journey for more than a decade. Every places we work, we always work together. So he does all the curries, everything. So he's literally like my family right here.
The modest size of Semma's kitchen makes a tough job even tougher, but somehow the team makes it work. It doesn't run on fancy equipment, just well-worn burners and muscle memory. Everyone knows exactly where they need to be.
I mean, as you can see, this is very challenging. They have cooked 5 to 6 dishes at the same time in a big pot. I mean, they have to make sure, they don't burn anything. They have the right amount of spices, and there's a lot of factor that goes into cooking, as you know. So they have to stay really, really focused.
Out of this tight space comes Semma's signature dish, the gunpowder dosa. It takes precision and timing to get right, but the dosa master makes it look easy. It's second nature for him, which makes him essential to the kitchen.
This is Chef Raj. We call him dosa master, and he also cooks some of the curries. He cooks at least 100 to 150 dosa a night. This is Jose. Jose will be making like tons and tons of dumplings. There's a dish called paniyaram. So that's the one, he makes the paniyaram the whole night, and he takes care of other preps too. Like he makes the potatoes for the dosas, and he does other kind of preps and everything for the service. This is Marcos, this is Cesar. So I have to tell you a very interesting story about these two. So they used to be a dishwasher before. So they approached me like, chef, is there any way that I can be a prep cook? I can be in the kitchen, like, I was like, I love this. When someone, asked me like, they want to grow, they want to learn, I really want them to give an opportunity. Like, I saw the fire in the eyes, like, they really want to learn. So I just gave them an opportunity to be a prep cook, and then they're actually working on the line right now. Marcos, he's actually taking over the line when I'm not in the kitchen. Can you believe this? Like, this is what food does. As long as if you have interest and, if you have a dedication, everybody can do it. Like, you don't have to have a highly trained chef in the kitchen to produce a good food. So I think the most important thing you have is a good heart and dedication and seriousness and sincerity. All right, it's almost 3:30 now. The front of the house team just started arriving. They started sitting on the tables for the service.
There are only 65 seats in the restaurant, and tonight 172 reservations on the books.
We just get booked like 2 weeks in advance. Every single day we have about like 1,300 to 1,400 people on the notify list.
Doors won't open until 5 p.m., but outside a line has already formed. Each guest is hoping for one of 12 walk-in bar seats. By mid-afternoon, the kitchen is in full swing. Prep's nearly done, but no one slows down. It's a full house tonight, and every station has to be ready for the moment orders start rolling in.
All right, gentlemen, let's go.
The first wave hits fast, with starters, breads, and the dish almost everyone orders.
Guys, 210 dosa? Yeah.
Once the dosa grill starts, it does not stop. Batter hits hot steel. A lace edge forms, and a shower of spiced podi known as gunpowder finishes the dish.
Indians from other part of India, they think that, Southern Indian food is only about either idli or dosas, right? So we just wanted to break that barrier. We didn't want to put dosa on the menu. But now the dosa is one of the most signature dish on the menu now.
At peak service, the crew moves dozens of these every few minutes.
Jessica, dosa 207 101. Jose Paniyaram, B1. B12. Shiva, mung bean 206.
While the dosa station keeps firing, the next wave of dishes hits the line.
Guys, B10 please, scallops. Thank you. Take the whole tray, the plate is hot. Thank you. Guys, 201 mushroom, 207 prawns. Thank you.
As orders build, a few of Semma's staples start showing up on tickets. Roadside kalan is one of them. Spiced wild mushrooms, finished with fennel, coriander, and a few hand-placed flowers. Simple to eat, but tricky to plate.
All right, guys, 206 mushroom, please.
206, sir.
Thank you. Guys, poriyal 105 to poriyal. 105 to poriyal, please.
105 poriyal.
Guys, 2 beef, 101 303. Thank you. Yeah. Marcos, I need to come here for a few minutes. Help me out.
By 6 o'clock, the kitchen is running flat out. Tickets are piling high, but nothing stalls. As one dish is plated, the next is already firing.
Guys, one more lamb chop. Okay, the 4 pieces lamb chops goes to 101, please. 101. Thank you. Lobster solo 302. The paratha's coming up. The plate is very hot, guys. Very good. Very, very hot. Thank you. 104, 304. Thank you. Oh, it's kind of a little crazy. Guys, I need more. I need some help. Okay. Eggplant coca rice. 101 eggplant coca rice. And 102 eggplant coca rice. 101, 102. 101 eggplant coca rice, 102 eggplant coca rice. Thank you.
15 cooks, shoulder to shoulder, moving as one team. There's no extra space and no wasted motion. Their pace never slows, but VJ still watches each plate to make sure every detail is perfect.
Uh-oh. Fix it. Fell down. It's going to fall, right? You have to look for a space. It doesn't fall right here. Like it. Lamb chops coming out now. Jessica, the fish goes to 102, please. Fish 102. Thank you. Yeah, can you take one lamb chops to 206? It's been a long time though. Ask one of the speakers a little bit. 206, yeah.
One dish leaves the kitchen in limited numbers. A Dungeness crab feast for 2, inspired by chef's childhood. It's locally sourced, labor-intensive, and must be ordered in advance. so it finds its way to just 5 tables each night.
Particularly in Tamil Nadu, we make this really good crab masala. And every single one is saying that this is one of the best crab I ever had. I'm not bragging it, it's from the guests, sorry. All right, now it's things are getting clean out. That means it's almost done, so good. That was a little intense.
For a few hours every night, Semma runs at full speed. Then, as the last orders clear, the volume drops and the team exhale.
Good job, guys. Let's go. There you go. Yay! That's it. Good job.
From this tiny kitchen comes a huge reputation, and a nightly sprint ends how it began, back to prep, as the chefs prepare to do it all again tomorrow. With or without a Michelin star, their standard is the same. Make every plate count.
Shelling a lobster claw takes quick hands and a good night. Maine traps 90% of America's lobsters, about 100 million pounds every year.
That one right there is going to look real good on somebody's dinner plate.
But for decades, lobsters along the East Coast have been shifting north as waters get hotter.
25 years ago, this time of year, this bay would have been full of boats and traps. I'm the only boat hauling here today. The population of lobsters up in here has definitely changed.
That's a problem because many of the fishermen here only catch lobsters.
I think there's always risk associated with putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Now, lobstermen are betting on something with a little less pinch: seaweed. So is America's lobster supply really headed for collapse? And can kelp help the industry adapt? For 7 months of the year, Steve and his brother Dan set sail in the dark to pick up bait.
I'm 57, he's 55, but basically every dollar I've made has come out of the water right here since I was 12 years old.
As they motor out to their first set of traps, Dan preps that bait. Just as dawn sets in, the work takes off. And it doesn't stop. Steve and Dan will empty over 300 lobster traps today. 6 traps are strung along one line, or trawl. Color-coded buoys, like Steve's orange and blue ones, mark either end. A winch pulls in the line, and Steve hauls the 40-pound traps on board.
You get paid to pull them out of the traps. What hurts is what you slam your elbow onto when you're moving your arm out of there.
The team throws back any bycatch or species that aren't lobsters, like these crabs.
We don't keep anything we can't sell.
They also toss back any lobsters that are too big or too small to be legally harvested.
It has to be at least 3 1/4 inches from the back of the eye to the back of the shell. That's legal, that's big enough. If it's larger than 5 inches, it has to go back.
If they come across a female with eggs, like this one, that's also protected by law and has to be thrown back. They clip a V-shaped notch into the tail to let other fishers know this lobster had eggs.
But if you don't leave stuff in the water for the future, you won't have a fishery.
Dan fills the empty traps with bait: Acadian redfish, menhaden, and pork fat.
What we're giving them is their junk food. It'd be like walking by a donut shop and smelling the donuts cooking, so you go in.
Then they push the first trap back into the water to catch some more. They have to be careful not to get caught up in that line as it whips by. That rope is one of the most dangerous parts of lobstering. It's why these guys carry a knife. In case the rope pulls them overboard, they can cut themselves free.
He could fall off the stern. It'd be 3 minutes before I realized he went overboard. And that's not like I was ignoring him. It's just I'm doing other things.
Once the traps are safely back in the water, Steve and Dan slide rubber bands around the claws of their latest catch.
We try to ban the hard shells first sometimes because they'll bite the other ones. I have to pay for everything except for the bands. The dealers give us the bands.
Steve drops them into the tank below, so they'll stay kicking. You want a lobster to stay alive all the way until it's cooked, so bacteria doesn't grow. Because they get paid by the lobster, the team keeps a tally from each buoy line.
2. It's gonna be a long day, Dan.
They want to catch at least 10 lobsters from one trawl, or about 2 pounds a trap.
Anything under a pound is real bad. Even when we're having a bad day and we're not catching much, look where we are. I'd much rather be here than stuck in an office somewhere.
But for the last decade or so, rumors have swirled that Maine's lobster population could be at risk. Scientists track the East Coast lobster stock by the total weight of the population, what's called the biomass.
If you were to pinpoint a location where you could sort of balance that biomass on your fingertip, that would be the center of gravity.
In the 1970s, lobster's center of gravity was actually right off Long Island, New York. Because of warming water, the population collapsed there. The center shifted north, towards the stronger population off southern New England. But soon, the same thing happened there, and that population collapsed. By the late 2000s, the center had shifted all the way to the Gulf of Maine. Fishermen here experienced a surge in the lobster population. By 2016, lobster landings had hit a record high of 132 million pounds and made up almost half of what was caught in Maine. Before this boom, fishermen here caught everything from herring and mussels to scallops.
Lobster became such a financially productive activity during the boom of our landings, and most fishermen focused exclusively on lobster.
In the 2010s, going all in on lobster seemed like a safe bet for fishermen. They could earn more than any other species, and lobster's price stayed high despite soaring supply.
I think there's always risk associated with putting all of your eggs in one basket, and that's essentially the situation we've created.
But now the population is shifting again, farther offshore. Lobster eggs in warming waters inshore aren't surviving at the rates that ones in cooler waters are. Because the Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 99% of the world's oceans, people have been worried what happened in New York and New England would happen here. But scientist Kathy Mills says there's still hope.
We have conservation measures in place that are buffering some of the effects of warming temperatures.
Measures like maximum size limits introduced in the 1930s and V-notching in the 1940s.
The conservation measure to protect egg-bearing females is almost a century old.
These have helped slow lobster's decline off Maine. See how in the last few decades, the center of gravity hasn't moved as far as it did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Not only does Steve throw back lady lobsters, but his traps are also set up so small ones can escape.
So the kitchen is where the food is. You got two doorways in, and then this is the parlor back here where they're all hanging out after they eat. Every trap has 3, sometimes 4 vents. These vents are designed to let the lobsters out that aren't legal size.
While these catch limits in Maine have helped, they probably won't stop the population from shifting completely.
The population will not collapse. It will decline, but to levels that we've experienced in the past.
Like most scientists here, Kathy's team predicts the center of gravity will keep shifting north in the future. And as lobsters move offshore, so too do the lobstermen. Small boats like Steve's, that stay close to the coastline, are increasingly being replaced with big ones that go lobstering 30 miles out for days at a time. But big boats are an investment most young lobstermen can't afford. Even a small rig like this takes a lot of money to operate.
The traps and the buoys and the rope, probably looking at about $160,000 if everything was brand new. Am I worried about the younger generation? And I am, because we've done everything we can to keep a fishery for them. The stuff that we can't control, we can't control.
Yeah, I'm inbound, over. Yep, roger that, just checking.
On small boats, lobstermen like Steve and Dan will go out for just the morning and pull into the Portland dock around noon. They sell their catch to Luke's Lobster at $6.50 a pound for hard shell and $5.50 for soft shell, or ones that have recently molted. Ward Peck runs the tank room. His team grades the lobsters based on weight and quality as they come off the boats. Ones with 2 full-grown claws get a higher grade.
So you can tell this one lost this claw, so you wouldn't want to pay $50 for this on your plate.
They also sort them by the hardness of their shells. If you squeeze a soft shell, you can feel water inside because there's still room for the lobster to grow. That also means there's less meat. Those can only be sold to local markets before they spoil. A hard shell, though?
It's like a bullet. There's no water in here. The higher proportion of meat to shell in a hard shell lobster.
Hard shell lobsters will fetch a bit more because they survive longer and they can be exported out of the state.
Here's something that you would pay good money for at a Manhattan restaurant. It has a crusher claw, it has a pincher claw. The crusher claw is bigger, pincher claw is more narrow. 3-pound lobster, I would not want to get my finger in their crusher claw, that's for sure.
He's seen some pretty lobsters through all his years of grading.
This guy's more of an albino, and this guy is like the calico. He's albino in spots. When they're this color, they look prehistoric to me. Apparently, no matter what color they are when they're alive, once you boil them, they all turn red.
From here, Ward will drop them off at Luke's Lobster's restaurant next door, or send them to the company's processing facility, about 20 minutes away.
The first step is running it through a stunner.
Luke's Lobster wouldn't show us its stunner, but the machine could look something like this. It's a lethal electric shock, marketed as a quicker and more humane way to kill lobsters than boiling them alive. At the processing facility, we were able to catch up to the lobsters just after steaming. They go straight into a chiller to stop the cooking and bring them to a food-safe temperature of below 40 degrees.
We then break the lobster down into parts.
That's Luke Holden, a third-generation lobsterman and the founder of Luke's Lobster. Because of rising utilities and PPE costs, he says this processing facility actually loses him money.
It's definitely a really tough industry to make ends meet. There are less and less processors in the state of Maine every year.
He offsets the losses with the money he makes from his restaurants.
I'm a little bit stubborn in nature. This is the business that I love. I find like so much energy just being a seafood processor.
Workers dump out buckets of claws and knuckles onto these tables. These shellers move at lightning speeds, cracking open the claws and swiping out the meat.
It's amazing how competent those pickers are and how fast they can go.
In one shift, these pickers can shell 40,000 pounds of lobsters. This machine removes the small legs from the body. The company pulverizes the body meat into mince for its lobster bisque. But they don't waste those legs. They send them through this roller.
The leg meat is used for a lobster ravioli, our lobster cakes, our lobster mac and cheese.
All the shells get crushed into a powder that can then be used in fertilizer. At the back of the room, workers do a quality check of knuckle and claw meat
to make sure that there's no shell or cartilage before it ultimately gets packed up.
If it passes the check, the staff packs them into 2-pound bags. This machine vacuum seals them. Then they get a slow trip down this flash freezing machine, which can take less than 10 minutes to cool them down to -10 degrees. The majority of the state's lobsters are processed into parts like this. Some of these packs will go to partners like Whole Foods and Benihana. The rest head to Luke's Lobster's restaurants, where they're seeing a surge in demand.
When there's more demand for the finished goods, that trickles up to the fishermen, and that creates more economic value for the industry.
But this meat hasn't always been valuable. For most of recorded history, there were so many lobsters up and down the east coast of the US, they were considered a food of the poor. And they held that reputation for centuries. A legend goes in the 1900s, at a party hosted by the wealthy Rockefeller family, a lobster meant for the servants was served to the guests, and they loved it. Soon, overfishing made lobster scarce and expensive, cementing it as a luxury food in the US. The tail meat was especially popular. Luke's dad, Jeff, was the first licensed lobster processor in Maine, but in the 2000s, he couldn't sell the cooked knuckle and claw meat.
He had a freezer full of hundreds of thousands of pounds of cooked lobster meat that ultimately there was no strong market for.
When Luke moved to New York City for a job in banking, he couldn't find a good lobster roll. So he called up his dad, asking to buy the claw meat to start a lobster roll shop in Manhattan.
He was like, that's great. And he even offered us 90-day terms to get the business financing because it was just going to sit in his freezer anyways.
The first shack was a huge success, and they've since expanded to 35 locations worldwide.
Fast forward 15 years, the market is completely inversed. When we started Luke's in 2009, we were paying $14 a pound for cooked lobster meat. In the last 3 years, we've seen as high as $50 a pound. And I would say on average, it's in the high 30s. More demand.
The company opened its Portland, Maine restaurant in 2019.
I usually pack this cooler with about 120 pounds, and before lunch is even over, they will have gone through all 120 pounds.
Michael Tibbetts is the assistant kitchen manager, and he says the most popular dish is the lobster roll, loaded with knuckle and claw meat.
It's become a real iconic thing. We will sell over 800 lobster rolls a day. It's just a regular New England split top roll. It's our butter wheel right here. We do 3 swipes of butter on both sides, put it on the flat top, weigh out 4 ounces of fresh lobster meat, drizzle of butter, a little bit of secret seasoning, and that is the Luke's lobster roll.
As popularity for lobster dishes has jumped nationwide, so has Maine's dependency on this one crustacean.
Our overdependence on one fishery is going to always be scary, and it's always tenuous.
That's why Bree Warner launched Atlantic Sea Farms, a company that helps fishermen get into a different kind of business, kelp farming. Not only is seaweed getting more popular stateside, its harvest season is the opposite of lobsters.
We have all of this coastline. It's so protected, it's so nutrient dense. It's a perfect place to grow kelp. We have 4,000 boats that in the winter aren't doing a whole lot.
Kelp thrives in Maine's cold water.
So this is really good, healthy kelp right now. What you want to see is a nice dark olive color to it. You don't see any bare spots. You're getting several pounds each foot of line. You obviously don't need to water them. No herbicides, no pesticides.
Atlantic Sea Farms grows the kelp seeds at this nursery.
Then we give it to our partner farmers for free. We help them find their lease, we help them with site selection, we help them with farm setup.
When Atlantic Sea Farms started out in 2018, the entire state of Maine harvested 53,000 pounds of farmed seaweed.
For the first year of Atlantic Sea Farms, we had 3 brave souls take on the risk of doing their own farms.
Flash forward to today, its 40 partner farmers harvested a record-breaking 1.3 million pounds in 2024, just in time to meet booming demand in the global seaweed market.
We haven't had to recruit anyone in years. The proof is in the pudding. The fishermen don't do things that don't make money for them.
Many are lobstermen, like Justin Papke.
Just looking at things we could do to diversify, take a couple eggs out of the lobster basket.
He considered oyster and mussel farming, but found kelp was a cheaper investment. Because he could use the same boat, ropes, and buoys as lobstering.
I had all these buoys just stacked up on the shore. It's like, well, they don't need to be on the shore. Maybe they could be making me money in the water. And kelp seemed to fit really well with lobstering in our season and our slow times.
It took Justin 3 years to get the license for his 8-acre farm.
The way we're set up, it kind of looks like an Olympic swimming pool. The kelp is on like a lane, except it's 7 feet below the surface.
Debris, like trees, can tangle in these lines, and big waves can move them.
We're not growing things on land in nice rows. We're putting our nice rows in the water, and then Mother Nature throws hurricanes at you.
Justin's biggest expense were these moorings, or anchors, that hold down the kelp lines. They can cost a farmer as much as $50,000 for a 4-acre site.
Once the kelp starts to grow, it gets really heavy, so it's better to spend a little bit more and get something that won't move.
Justin can harvest 10,000 pounds a day on average during the season.
Slowly, as we're getting better at it, it's become more dependable, and now it's a part of our income stream.
For the past 5 years, Steve has also been harvesting kelp in the spring. He spent about $22,000 starting up his farm, but he says the investment was worth it.
There's a lot less expense with the kelp once you set the farm up. You haven't got nearly as much fuel burned, and you haven't got a $600 or $800 a day bait bill. I don't find myself nearly as tired at the end of a day of harvesting kelp as I do at the end of a day hauling traps.
After fishermen like Steve harvest their kelp, Atlantic Sea Farms buys it.
We design all of the products, and we turn it into value-added products for grocery stores.
From this factory, the company makes seaweed salad, burgers, smoothie cubes, and kimchi.
I got here some skinny kelp. It was harvested by one of our partner farmers yesterday. These blades clearly are taller than I am. It's really good. We wash, shred it, and we'll blanch it. And then from there, that product will go to our fermentation room and we use that as an ingredient.
The kelp ferments in gochujang, tamari, and gochugaru for 10 days and comes out looking like this. That's the spicy seaweed salad.
Here, they're just trying to make sure everything's mixed really well together. Some of that liquid would have settled while all the product was sitting.
Finally, workers scoop the salad into 15-ounce jars. This machine makes sure the lid is airtight.
We want to get those lids on there really secure. Because it is a live product, there still can be fermentation that's happening, and so we don't want any air getting into those jars.
Each of these jars is traceable back to the exact farm it was pulled from. And at about $10 a piece, they can be more valuable than raw kelp. The company makes over 75,000 jars of fermented seaweed salad every year and sells them in thousands of stores across the US.
Our food system is so broken. It's making farmers poorer, the environment worse, and consumers less healthy. And what we're doing here on the coast of Maine to work with fishermen to diversify in the face of climate change with the most climate-friendly food on the planet, for me, that's very hopeful.
Studies show kelp sucks harmful nutrients like nitrogen out of the water, sequesters carbon dioxide from the air, and protects against coastal erosion. Even at Luke's Lobster, they're frying up these kelp burgers.
We're shifting all the time. Shifting doesn't scare me at all. If they can sell the product, we should be encouraging more fishermen to go out and harvest kelp.
So will kelp ever replace lobster? Probably not.
So kelp is not a silver bullet. Lobster's always going to be part of the fabric of Maine. We're very optimistic about a future that includes lobster and kelp and oysters and mussels, and ways that we can create a future where we can always be working on the water for generations to come.
The Netherlands is the second largest exporter of agricultural products in the world, despite being only a little bigger than the state of Maryland. How does a country this size even come close to the US, the world's top exporter? By devoting more than half of its land to farming and focusing on high-value goods like eggs, meat, cheese, tomatoes, and peppers.
We are sweet and tiny. It's in our genes, you know, it's our DNA.
In 2024 alone, the Dutch farmed goods worth over $140 billion. The country pioneered greenhouse growing and now uses robots and algorithms that predict yield, optimize water use, and can even tell when a tomato is ripe. But its position at the top is being threatened. Soaring energy prices, labor shortages, and new rules limiting pollution are squeezing the industry. So how did the Dutch become a global agricultural powerhouse? And more importantly, what can its model teach the rest of the world about how to grow more with less? In the 13th century, nearly a fifth of what is now the Netherlands was underwater. So the Dutch built dikes to hold back the sea and pioneered the use of windmills to pump out the leftover water. Over centuries, a complex system of pumps kept low-lying land dry. And from this reclaimed land, small family farms fed the country. But that all changed during World War II, when Nazi Germany took over. In 1944, Dutch rail workers went on strike, protesting the occupation. In response, the Nazis cut off food supplies. Over 5 months, 20,000 people died from starvation. It became known as the Winter of Hunger. After the war, food security became a national priority. Under the new agricultural minister, Sicko Mansholt, the government industrialized farming. He subsidized important agricultural products and merged farms into bigger, more efficient ones. Public investment in research and education transformed Wageningen University into the country's secret weapon. It all started in Westland, an area just outside of Rotterdam. with one of the world's largest concentrations of greenhouses. After dark, they light up the horizon in orange, purple, and green hues from the powerful lamps used to speed up plant growth.
Some people say it will never be really dark in Westland.
Here, Margriet Loya runs a third-generation tomato farm called Loya Kukers. How did your grandfather grow vegetables? I'm guessing it didn't look like this.
No, not at all. It was completely different than in these days.
In these greenhouses, plants can grow a foot a week. Marguerite's team prunes, wraps, and lowers each one by hand. If you didn't control the vines.
Oh, yeah, then you will get the jungle.
The Netherlands exports more than 900,000 tons of tomatoes a year, despite having a climate that's naturally too cold and rainy for these warm weather fruits. Overhead, LED lights mimic the sun and create optimal summer conditions year-round. Developed by scientists at Wageningen, these lights run more efficiently than older sodium bulbs.
With the same electricity, you can get almost double light.
Watering these plants has also become more efficient. Over the last 2 decades, greenhouses have reduced their water usage by as much as 90%.
The water will fall here, and it will go back at the end of the row, and then it will go into a drain silo. We will clean this water and we will reuse it.
That means it takes just 4 liters of water to grow a kilo of Dutch tomatoes, compared to the global average of more than 200 liters. While tech has optimized much of the growing process, humans still pick tomatoes better than robots, which struggle to see the fruit through these dense vines.
It's ready to be harvested when the last tomato, this one, is completely red. For example, these two are just perfect. These are ready to be harvested because that's the moment when they have the best taste.
Because Loya only picks ripe fruit, it has a small window to get it into cold storage before it spoils.
Today the tomatoes came, we packed them in the night shift, and tomorrow morning everything goes away with the trucks.
So to help speed up production, this tomato camera.
He's looking for damage, splits.
The machine takes 2 pictures, one from the top and one from the bottom.
This one, we see there he had found 1 split. Must be somewhere.
Machines also sort the reddest and sweetest tomatoes one last time. Then workers package them by hand at these stations, so they're ready to ship out. But tomato greenhouses aren't the only ones relying on lots of tech. Wageningen University is working with growers to reduce their energy consumption. Leo Marcellus is largely credited for the widespread use of LED lights in Dutch greenhouses.
Without light, there is no plant growth.
Custom LED light recipes have helped farmers grow strawberries, cucumber, and asparagus faster. His research on these lights got glasshouses in the country to cut their power usage by nearly half. And now, Leo and his team are seeing if they can take it further.
The question is, can we make as efficient use of the LED lighting as possible?
Now he's studying how LED light color, intensity, and timing can influence growth and lower energy bills.
And here we are doing an experimental setup where we are growing lettuce with different light.
In this lettuce trial, his team figured out that by increasing the light intensity in the final week before harvest, they can raise vitamin C and sugar content and extend shelf life.
What gives a good growth? What gives a good taste? What gives a good nutritional value? But also, what is most sustainable in terms of less use of energy? And usually that can be a balancing act.
They're also studying how more robots can help reduce labor costs.
Several things are studied. One of them is about robotic harvesting of the plants. There's a lot of interest, of course, in replacing the manual labor by robots.
Much of what's discovered at Wageningen ends up back on farms like Loya and VD Holland.
Growers often also partly fund the research that we're doing here.
This tight feedback loop between scientists and farmers may be the secret to what makes Dutch agriculture so efficient. It dates back to the post-war era, when the Dutch government encouraged researchers and farmers to work together.
When I was a kid, my father, every Monday or Tuesday evening, I think, he had a study club. And then they were with a few growers and they visited their greenhouses. I think things like that were very, very positive for the development of our industry.
The Netherlands turned its flood-prone country into an agricultural powerhouse and exported that knowledge around the world. But does Dutch innovation hold the secret to feeding the globe?
The fact is that there is almost 1 billion people on the planet that go hungry every day.
Jonas Jägermeyer is a climate scientist and crop modeler at Columbia University. He points out that half of the calories humans eat come from crops that are grown outdoors, grains like wheat, rice, and corn.
But we're not going to grow staple crops or calorie-providing grain crops in a greenhouse environment anytime soon, simply because of financial requirements.
The farms of the future will have to rely on more than just tech. They'll need water, seeds, energy, local knowledge, and adaptable systems.
There is no silver bullet. Any implementation strategy that would help change how farmers do practice, how food is processed and transported, and how food is then brought to the consumer needs to be in a locally tailored strategy.
Jonas is now building AI tools that can give farmers early warnings of seasonal forecasts, fine-tune water use, and more importantly, connect growers across continents, allowing them to share insights in real time. Maybe the real Dutch export isn't tomatoes, beef, or robot harvesters. It's a mindset, one that values collaboration over competition and policies that drive efficiency. The Dutch can't feed the world alone, but they've forever changed the way it feeds itself. This is one of the kitchens behind New York City's most infamous jail, Rikers Island. Here, chefs work 24/7, making every meal for 3,800 staff and people in custody.
People say so many things, like the inmates cook the food. It's not true. We cook the food.
But while chefs are on their shift, they're locked in too. Inmates work alongside them in the kitchen, washing dishes and moving carts.
There's a distance between us. Here you can't treat them as friends. You know why they're here.
Any given moment, violence could happen. You gotta have a sense of urgency when you're working back here.
Knives are chained to machinery, and can lids slide down a caged trash bin. Rikers Island is part of one of the costliest jail systems in the US, yet it faces scrutiny over conditions and food quality. We went inside the jail's largest kitchen to see how thousands of meals are made and to find out how chefs, officers, and detainees work together behind the walls of Rikers. Rikers Island is a complex of 10 jail buildings and the second largest jail in America. It sits in the waters between the Bronx and Queens. Planes take off from LaGuardia Airport right next door. The only way onto the island is this skinny, nearly mile-long bridge. Many chefs take public transport to get to work, passing through half a dozen security gates on their way to the kitchen.
The first time I felt nervous is when I heard that gate close behind me. That's the only time I was nervous.
Inside, it doesn't feel any less like a jail. There are cameras everywhere. All of them are monitored from the guard's office. 8 officers watch the feed, guard the doors, and search every food delivery for contraband. People in custody, or PICs, can't touch the food. They're only allowed to wash dishes, clean, and push food wagons. Most people held at Rikers haven't been convicted of a crime. They're awaiting trial. Those who are serving time are sentenced to a year or less. Only chefs are allowed to touch the knives. They're chained to heavy machinery at all times.
There's a reason for the knife on the chain. It's for security.
When chefs need to change stations, they get a guard from the office to unlock the knife and move it.
When you first start, it's a little awkward. Like the chain is either touching your hand or something, but you get used to it.
But officers also keep watch over objects that might seem harmless, like lids, which go straight into a caged trash can.
It's a lot of things. There's a lot of sharp objects here, a lot of things that can be used as a weapon.
Metal spoons and ladles have to be checked out from a locked cabinet in the guard's office. Today, the chefs are working on a big batch of pepper steak.
In a place like this, food is very important. I like to make other people happy. It's like inmates, but it's still people. They make mistakes, but they still gotta eat.
Taking it in. Good morning, Kat.
Nadine Leach had been incarcerated at Rikers for 17 months at the time of filming. She was a chef before serving time here, but she's only allowed to push food carts and can't use her cooking skills.
I wish I could. I think I'd be making some good stuff if I could cook, yeah.
Why did you want a job in the kitchen as opposed to other places?
The money, and I like to serve people. It's a privilege because you have to stay ticket free, you can't be in trouble, you have to be like safe, like a safety net. Reedy, good morning.
The city pays incarcerated kitchen workers like Nadine $1.45 an hour, even though minimum wage is $17 in New York City. The federal minimum wage was introduced in the 1930s, but courts have ruled that it doesn't apply to incarcerated workers because they aren't considered employees under federal labor law. The agency that runs the jail, whether that's state, city, or federal, sets the pay rates for detainees who work. New York City's Department of Correction said in a statement, the wage for each position was determined by a DOC leadership committee that assessed the number of PICs needed in each facility.
In other states, they don't pay them at all.
That's Ruvain Blau, a criminal justice reporter and the author of Rikers, an oral history.
Studies have shown that if they do get money and they have money to come out, they're a much more successful transition.
And what do you do with the money that you make?
I save it because I have grandchildren, so I take care of my grandchildren, so I make sure they're okay.
PICs at Rikers aren't required to work, but Nadine says she clocks in every day for 56 hours a week just to stay busy.
Me, I don't take a day off because I don't like idle time. Idle time is the devil time.
Back in the kitchen, chefs face other challenges, including a ban on certain ingredients like salt. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg cut it out of the Rikers diet as part of a citywide nutrition initiative that took effect in 2014. Chefs can use spices and soup bases to add flavor. But detainees have other methods of spicing things up, like with ramen seasoning.
Or the oodles and noodle pack, they got the seasoning in it. Just jazz it up, make it comfortable, or throw some cheese on it.
PICs can buy ramen from the commissary, a shop for people inside the jail. But for many, the commissary is expensive.
The people in Rikers Island are not, generally a wealthy group of people. And, these dollars make or break, a family or, somebody locked up there.
In 2024, a $33 million no-bid contract went through for a company called Keefe to stock the commissary. The contract said commissary prices were supposed to be in line with those at local stores. But a study that Ruvain led in 2025 found that many products were pricier than they were supposed to be. In a comment, the DOC said the prices being offered are comparable to local New York City area stores. If there is a product that is too expensive, the department can remove it. For many detainees, the kitchen is their only source of food. Much of it arrives in cans, including veggies, and frozen like the meat. Jamac, a Jersey City company, got a nearly $1.2 million contract to supply meat for New York City's Department of Correction. Cremoland, another Jersey company, has a $673,000 contract with the city to provide dairy products to its prisons. You'll find its milk jugs in many bodegas around the city, too. Despite working with limited ingredients, chefs in Rikers kitchens still have to feed over 7,000 people in one sitting. The day we visited, they were preparing large batches of tartar sauce for tomorrow's fish, and that pepper steak, a favorite here.
It's fast-paced, it's a lot going on at all times, but it's organized. Every section of the kitchen, everybody know their role, so everything is done smoothly.
But this operation is only getting more expensive. In 2024, a DOC spokesperson said the annual food budget at Rikers was about $19 million, but the actual costs were expected to climb to about $23 million, or roughly $9 per meal per detainee. The Department of Corrections said this is because the cost of living for nearly everything in New York City is more expensive compared to other states. Despite this high price tag, Nadine says the meals are hit or miss. What do you think about the food here?
Disgusting. Nah. It depends on the meal. Like the chili, again, get jiggy with it. But everything else is pretty decent. Can't complain.
Even though chefs are required to cook recipes mandated by the city, many still take pride in the work.
What do you think of the food that you make here? Is it good?
It's good. Once you love cooking, everything you do, you have to do it from deep down inside. So I go around, make sure my cooks, they're doing the best to put it out there because someone got to eat it.
Early on, some of the food at Rikers came from the island itself. In the 1920s, before it became a modern jail, Rikers Island was a city-owned penal farm where incarcerated people were required to grow food and raise livestock for the jail and other New York City institutions. A meal might have included asparagus, lima beans, and pork. When the modern jail complex opened in the early 1930s, Rikers shifted to bulk food production. In the 1950s, it had a chicken coop, a 200-acre farm that provided inmates with veggies, and a bakery, pumping out 2 million loaves a year. But the population was growing, and poor sanitation plagued the jail. In 1959, about 100 people got sick from eating bad boiled tongue. 40 ended up in the prison hospital. In the 1970s, grilled chicken was a favorite among PICs, but they also might have eaten liver or mutton. In the early 70s, William Vanden Heuvel, chairman of the Board of Correction, invited a New York Times food critic to try the city's prison food.
He knew what the outcome was going to be, and he was trying to make a point. Why are we spending all this money to serve, terrible food? It was, for lack of a better term, it was a stunt, but it worked, and the food really changed. They kind of really improved what they were serving.
In 1980, inspectors began checking the temperature of the food to improve food safety, and chefs served pork chops. In the 90s, there was still a farm and a bakery. A meal might have included hot dogs or oxtail. Carrot cake, served at Christmas, was a hit. In the 2010s, Mayor Bloomberg led an initiative to make the food healthier and cheaper in the city's jails. He not only cut salt, but reduced carbs from menus and added more vegetables. Bloomberg's influence is still seen today, and the food spooned into hotel pans and loaded up onto wagons.
I'm checking the wagon according to what it's supposed to have in the wagon for the meal today.
Each pan serves about 25 people.
The men get a few more ounces than the women. The women get less ounces. Everything.
That's rude. I
No, but we always make sure there's enough food to go around.
We caught up with the wagons at the Rose M. Singer Center, the women's facility. 15 PICs unload them from the truck, including Nadine.
I'm looking for three. Where the three? 3 East End.
They sort the wagons based on which of the 8 housing units they'll head to. Officers then check the wagons for any damage. They're looking for chipped-off plastic that could be used as a weapon or contraband.
You just never know, so just to check, you just still got to do security.
Nadine is one of the PICs approved to deliver the carts for mealtimes.
I wake up happy every day, so I want to be happy, and this right here is like my sanctuary, so when I come here, it don't feel like I'm in prison, in jail. It just feels like I'm at my restaurant and I'm serving people. But then the reality comes when I go back and then be like, oh, I'm here. But this is my sanctuary, so I come here to get away from everything else.
But even in her sanctuary, she's patted down before she goes out for a delivery.
That's their job, they have to do it. They doing their job, I'm doing my time. It's 2 different worlds. But they don't treat me like an inmate or PC or PIC, whatever. They treat me like a human, like me human.
It's a delicate relationship between PICs, chefs, and officers in here.
There's a distance between us. Here you can't treat them as friends. You know why they're here.
Now you be buddies and they get complacent and they start asking for things.
Do you ask people what they've done?
No, sometimes they just volunteer the information to me.
Sometimes I do, but I don't expect to get the good answer at all times, you know. I don't really judge them, but I treat them with respect. Because you have to treat them with respect. They're humans.
But a lot of people like tend to know your case and then they turn down their nose to you because of your case or something like that. And I don't feel that's right because only God could judge you. I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like I matter.
No matter how familiar a detainee becomes, officers say they can't let their guard down. When they've been here longer, do you feel like you can relax a little bit around them?
Still, you never know. You get too relaxed, you just never know. So you can't, you know.
Nah, there's only one. Yeah. Go out?
An officer follows Nadine at all times as she pushes the cart down the long hallways to the women's housing units.
Good morning. How you doing?
Marinara.
Yes, beef salad, and this is tuna. This is tuna fish.
Nadine's also approved to serve up the food.
You're like a fairy godmother of food.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Everybody smile. I always like them to be happy.
Today's lunch is tuna salad and pasta salad, served at 11 a.m.
Breakfast is like 5:30.
Like 5 a.m. is so early.
Because we have courts.
Every day, hundreds of detainees at Rikers are bussed off-site for court appearances. Meal times are built around these departures.
And that process involves getting woken up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning and then dragged to court. And sometimes it's for like a minor hearing and you're stuck in a bullpen all day.
Bullpens are holding areas inside courthouses. While detainees wait, they might get a sandwich for lunch.
Peanut butter and jelly, cheese, bologna, salami. And guess what? When you come back to the facility, a lot of times you've missed your meal.
Dinner is served as early as 4 p.m.
And then they have to constantly do this sort of cycle of getting woken up, spending the entire day in a bullpen, and getting this disgusting food. A lot of times people are just exhausted.
In October 2019, the City Council voted to close Rikers for good by 2027, citing years of violence and unmanageable conditions. The city agreed to open 4 new, smaller jails in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx, which are currently under construction. Together, they're designed to hold 4,160 detainees. But in 2025, Rikers' population alone reached nearly 7,000, its highest level in 6 years. An independent commission said Rikers Island is unlikely to close by the city's 2027 deadline.
Because of the delays in construction, right now the earliest that might happen is 2031.
Rouvain said it would be easier to get food to the borough jails than to Rikers Island. The facilities would also be closer to detainees' court hearings and more accessible to visitors. And it's a plan the city's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has endorsed. Before Rikers shuts down completely, a new menu is set to shake things up. In 2024, New York City received a $100,000 grant to develop healthier, plant-based menu options at Rikers Island, including dishes such as chana masala and spinach artichoke pasta.
I'm excited about it because we had a little bit of training on it, and to me it is so good. My curry chickpeas, I can't wait. It is so good.
Something Mr. Ajita, who's from Guyana, is most excited about.
Oh, you know Guyana's curry. We do curry, we do pepper pot, we do cook-up rice, yeah.
The city's tapped nonprofit Hot Bread Kitchen to develop the new menus, so they would be low in sodium, plant-forward, and scalable. But Nadine isn't entirely convinced.
Our meat, they're trying to take the meat from us. They don't want us to eat meat no more. But I think it should be a choice.
Because in here, a meal can mean everything.
When they come to you and they can tell you, I had a good breakfast or I had a good lunch, it's really nice. So it's important to whatever you do, you put that love into it.
3 meals a day, it's important for everybody. I want to eat.
27,000 tons of yuzu are grown here in Japan every year. Compare that to here in the US, where there are only a handful of yuzu farms growing a fraction of that. The number of yuzu menu items in the US grew 33% between 2016 and 2021, and a French flavor company named yuzu 2025's Flavor of the Year.
I think chefs really love how different it is from a regular lemon or a lime or an orange.
With this kind of supply imbalance, countries will typically strike an international trade deal, but none of Japan's yuzu bounty will reach the US legally. And because there's not much fresh yuzu grown in the US, prices for the fruit have skyrocketed to around $20 a pound. So if Japan has so much yuzu, why can't it meet US demand? And why is American yuzu so expensive?
I have been going to Japan a long time, so I love, the citrus.
Robbie Cook is the executive chef of Coral Omakase in New York City.
I do a smoked salt with the yuzu juice on that. Right now, wintertime goes very well with a wild yellowtail, so with cooking it in a broth, into the ponzu.
Throughout his career, he's been able to compare Japanese and domestic yuzu.
The ones from Japan have a little more sweetness and that orangey flavor compared to like lemony flavor. The thing that's nice about what you're getting from Japan is they're like really massive, so you get much more surface area. You can peel your own skins, freeze them, and save for a later date.
Right now, the only legal way to experience fresh Japanese yuzu is by leaving the US. Here in Japan, it's everywhere.
柚子を一言で表すと、日本の代表的な香りの一つだと思います。
Senkoji Farms in Kochi Prefecture sells its fresh fruit for as little as 10 cents a pop. In the past, its yuzu has gone for over $3.
柚子は以前はすごく値段がしたこともありました。現在は柚子の栽培面積の増加とともにある程度一定の価格で収まっていると思います。
52% of yuzu grown in Japan comes from the Kochi Prefecture. Hisashi Senkoji took over his family's 10-acre citrus farm when he was 31. Some of the yuzu trees here are more than 100 years old.
家族の歴史って柑橘のこの柚子の古い木の歴史だったり。
Only a few fruits will be high enough quality to sell whole, the most expensive form.
外観が大きさ、形、綺麗さ、それで最高の柚子っていうのは作られていきます。現在の規格では完璧な柚子は綺麗な傷は全くない柚子です。
The rest will be juiced and the peels used for essential oils. Senkoji Farms separates the yuzu intended for sale from the yuzu intended for juicing and sorts it by size and quality.
で、農家ごとにそれぞれ分けてこのまんま流れていって、まずあそこの3人おりますけど、そこで手で選別して汚いもの、傷がついているもの、傷みやすいもの、そういうものをまずのけます。それから選果機のカメラを通して大きさ、外観で選別されます。
One blemish too many can disqualify a fruit from being sold whole.
柚子は柚子のこの成果、玉で販売するやつは表傷5まで、裏6までなので12345678910なのでこれはすごく綺麗だけどこっち残念、もったいないより良い柚子っていうのはやっぱり僕たちは綺麗な柚子って思ってますので、綺麗で見た目が綺麗な柚子。
Japan is known for its luxury fruit, which prioritizes a perfect aesthetic above all else. These premium pieces can be sold at a much higher price than the average offering. To keep every fruit as pretty as possible, Hisashi and his team of 4 harvest by hand.
収穫では柚子トゲが多いですので、革の手袋を使います。革の手袋で収穫して、まず
手を守るように。手を守るにはどうして手を守るかって言ったら革の手袋で、それで柚子を収穫の時に守るためです。
Sashi says current technology doesn't take the yuzu tree's huge thorns into account, which can damage the fruit, but he has hopes for a more automated future.
ゆくゆくはこの柑橘の収穫っていうのもいずれ先進的なロボットがしてくれるとは思ってます。
About 4 out of Senkoji Farm's 10 acres are dedicated to yuzu. The fruit accounts for 40% of sales, so it's important to keep it as healthy as possible. But the question of why all this yuzu from Japan won't legally make it to the US can be answered in part by this imperfect green piece of fruit.
実際こんな実ばっかりの木がある。これ柑橘トリステザウイルスが入ってる。全然違う。こんなになったらこういう柚子ばっかりできだしたら木を植え替えて他の木にこれが移らないようにしたりします。
But citrus tristeza virus isn't the only threat to America's $3 billion citrus industry. Another infection, citrus greening disease, was first detected in 2005. Since then, citrus production in Florida has plummeted 75%. The disease is incurable. Once a tree is infected, the only way to deal with it is to destroy it. Some markets, like the European Union, do allow yuzu imports from Japan under strict conditions that keep prices sky high. One German sushi restaurant told Business Insider it purchased a case of 12 Japanese yuzu for €7 a piece. The United States, on the other hand, does not allow any imports of fresh yuzu from Japan.
It might be touchy, but I do believe some chefs are getting from Japan.
Records from the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service show only rare instances of smuggled yuzu, the most recent being in 2016. But these records only tell us when smuggled yuzu was found. To start the process of lifting the ban, a trading partner would first have to request market access, something the USDA told BI hasn't happened yet. Fresh yuzu seekers in the States must buy their fruit from one of the few US producers, like the family-run orchard Flavors by Boomi. But local grown supply is limited, making it expensive. Flavors by Boomi sells its yuzu for about $20 a pound, compared to Senkoji Farm's $2.60.
To the best of our knowledge, we are the only growers of the yuzu or yuzu in general in the Northeast. Nobody else does it.
It wasn't a choice to grow it in New Jersey. We live here, so there wasn't anywhere else to grow it.
Since filming with BI, Flavors by Boomi has moved its East Coast production to Pennsylvania. Semma, Vivek, and their daughter Simran are the family behind the business.
I'm 16 years old, and sometimes one of them says, oh, the yuzu are like our firstborns because they were around before I was. So yes, I have been surrounded by citrus pretty much my whole life.
The Maliks started growing yuzu 20 years ago, but they had to work out some kinks before starting their business in 2017.
We did put a couple of trees in the ground outside. They promptly died.
There was no information available 20 years ago when we first started working with the yuzu. After tinkering around for a good decade, we decided to go commercial and started working with Michelin star restaurants, and have been doing so for the last 7 years now.
Because the East Coast climate isn't ideal for growing yuzu, a greenhouse was pivotal to the company's success.
We can control the climate, the feeding, the beneficial insects, the nutrition, everything is controlled.
The greenhouse also adds a layer of protection from diseases and pests. At the same time, greenhouse space is Flavors by Boomi's biggest roadblock to increasing supply.
The access to good greenhouse space is always a challenge because we can't expand without building greenhouses. There's always this challenge to find the right land, the right space to do all this.
Scaling requires more labor from Simran, the farm's resident grafting expert.
We have close to about, I would say, 3,000 to 4,000 trees.
Since yuzu trees grown from seed take about 18 years to start producing fruit, most new yuzu trees, even in Japan, are created through grafting. The process involves attaching a budding yuzu stem to the root system of a different, easier to grow citrus tree.
Essentially, the way a successful graft works is you want the original tree to kind of absorb the graft and then be able to grow that tree going further. You don't want it to continue growing its own self, per se. This is a grafted yuzu tree. This part right here is the original plant, and this is where the graft was done, right here.
This graft was done about 2 years ago, and the tree is already producing fruit. But it will still be a few years before it's fully grown.
These are definitely going to take a bunch of time, somewhere between another 7 to 8 years to get somewhere along that size, or maybe even along this size.
Growing enough fruit is one thing, but providing quality fruit is another. Fresh yuzu does not have a very long shelf life.
A couple of weeks at best when it's fully ripe, because it tends to lose its juice content and tends to start becoming drier in nature.
So even if they could import it, many chefs would still pay a premium for domestic yuzu, especially when it's grown right next door.
I source locally, like they tend to be much fresher here, you know, from travel time. You know, Vivek's just such a great guy, like I would rather support him and then always use his citrus, which is great.
Chef Robbie was one of the Marlick's very first customers, even before they established their business.
I think Vivek's is more comparable to Japan, especially later in the season when they do get bigger and the more orange comes out to it.
Robbie says frozen yuzu can't compare with the flavor of the fresh fruit.
This we can buy all year round, stays frozen. Similar flavor profile, but I'd say less floral notes, less freshness. And like I said, the juice tends to be like really punchy.
But for Japan's yuzu farmers, juicing is one of the only ways to access the US market. Yuzu juice can be imported from Japan because processing removes the pathogens, diseases, and pests that whole fruits carry. At the Japan Agricultural Cooperatives Processing Center, where Senkoji farms and other producers juice their yuzu, 10 squeezing machines are kept behind glass.
皮として販売されます。きれいな皮はそのまま皮として活用されるために。
The skins are processed with a slicer.
この外の皮の部分は柚子の精油エッセンシャルオイルを取るための会社に販売されます。
Yuzu cocktails, sauces, and seasonings might feel trendy in the US, but the citrus goes back hundreds of years in Japan.
昔から私ども柚子の文化とともに育っているので、この柚子の文化を絶やさないように。
My favorite thing is the yuzu bath that in Japan you can take on winter solstice.
The cultural significance that exists in Japan doesn't exist over here.
According to Data Central's menu adoption cycle, yuzu is in the adoption stage, which is all about growing an ingredients fan base. And the world's zest for yuzu seems to be increasing. Monin, a French flavor company, has named yuzu the 2025 flavor of the year. Monin has a history of predicting trends and influencing menus around the world, and market segments like the yuzu-based sauce ponzu and yuzu essential oil are expected to grow. While it's safe to say it's a trend in the US, Flavors by Boomy seems to be making a bet that yuzu is here to stay. The Marlicks are currently expanding their business to California.
We have close to about, I would say, another 10,000 trees in California of different varieties.
This way, the company can shorten the travel time and provide even fresher fruit to chefs on the West Coast.
We would love to process at some point in the future. Right now, we are just producing fresh fruit and supplying directly to our clients, and that's it.
The citrus has a way to go before ubiquity outside of Japan, but it seems to be a matter of time.
Every night while New York City sleeps, a hidden bakery in the Bronx cranks out tens of thousands of donuts from scratch.
It's like a lot of flour flying everywhere.
Before sunrise, more than 100 breakfast cart owners swarm Pandora Bakery for fresh pastries. They're a small part of New York City's 20,000 mobile food vendors.
They're like the OG Grubhub and Seamless.
But running a business on wheels has never been tougher for the city's vendors, 96% of whom are immigrants.
They don't really understand what we got to deal with in order to get here to be convenient for them. Brother, have an amazing day. Good weekend.
For starters, it's a full-time grind.
I got to give my kids 20% of my battery, and then I give everybody else 80% of my battery.
Food cart permits are in such short supply that some vendors spend up to $25,000 to rent one on the black market.
My dad was on a wait list for almost 17 years.
This system has turned New York City's street food scene into a high-stakes gamble.
It's a very shady system. A lot of people have been scammed recently.
All of this has made street food more expensive, prompting Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani to campaign on lowering prices.
If I was the mayor, I'd be working with city council from day one to make halal $8 again.
So how does one pastry factory supply hundreds of carts? And why does New York City have so many food vendors, but so few legal permits? Pandora Bakery runs 24/7. It supplies food carts, restaurants, and hotels across New York with breads, muffins, apple turnovers, and donuts. The morning shift starts at 6 a.m., and they have until sundown to make thousands of pastries.
This is the dough, the mixer. We make our own dough here.
Konstantinos Kotsias founded the bakery in 1989. He keeps a close eye on the dough mix because the recipe changes daily based on the weather.
When it's cold, you put more water. Today is a very easy day to make donuts.
Just 15 bakers keep this kitchen turning out dough day and night.
It takes at least 5 years for a baker to learn how to do the donuts the right way.
Some of the best bakers, like Hugo and Julio, have been around for about 20 years. But Konstantinos beats them all. He's been working with pastries for 46 years. He moved to the US from Greece in 1978, built his own push cart from scratch, and started selling donuts and coffee out of it to earn a living.
It was the best job I ever did. I go there at 4 o'clock in the morning. We pack up and leave by 11:30 with the bags full of money.
Business was so good, he built 12 carts by 1990 and hired 20 employees to run them. In 1997, he opened this central food commissary for the city's vendors. There are nearly 100 of these kitchens across New York City, tailored to different types of food, like breakfast, halal dishes, and nuts.
Supplying the pushkas, you could be in 100 locations at the same time.
Over the years, he's continued to expand his clientele to restaurants, hotels, and even the New York Police Department. Bakers slide trays of sliced dough onto a rack and roll them into the proofer to rise. After proofing the dough for roughly 30 minutes, bakers dunk the donuts into the fryer. Throughout the fillings, dipping, sprinkling, and powdering, bakers keep a close eye on the temperature.
Too hot makes the frosting like melt off the donut.
Georgios Michaelidis is the general manager of Pandora Bakery.
Too cold makes the dough like tougher to eat.
That's why they use fans instead of AC. Finally, workers assemble the donuts for pickup. Most of Konstantinos' customers have been buying from him for over a decade. So Pandora knows their orders by heart.
There is no invoices laying on the boxes, so they know these orders inside their heads.
Workers stack the leftover donuts on this rack and sell them to commuters for $1 each.
I get a dozen small ones.
Mark Taylor works at a nearby hospital and stopped in to grab one before his shift.
This is arguably the best donut in New York City. They come at 10 o'clock in the morning and they're fresh up out of the grease and they are amazing.
Starting at 1 a.m., food cart vendors pull up to Pandora to stock up for the day.
It's a lot of work. You have to set up in the morning. Somebody has to move the truck.
Natty Gonzalez gets up at 3:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, so she can set up before the breakfast rush starts at 6. 3 dozen pastries are already waiting for her. She also picks up some extra ingredients, like flour and oil, for her freshly cooked breakfast items. Natty pays wholesale prices, 60 cents per medium donut, and sells them for $1.75. She sets up shop at Broadway and 87th on the west side of Manhattan.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
A spot she's held for a year. She immigrated from Mexico in 2002 and spent years at jobs that kept her on her feet, leading to back pain.
Now I can sit here, I have my chair here, I can sit, or we play music or whatever we want to do here, but it's our business.
She paid $31,000 to take over this cart, after learning the vendor in the spot was retiring. Natty runs it with her friend Carmen Flores, who she used to work with at a cafeteria. Together they created the menu and came up with the name for their cart, Las Reinas del Sabor, the Queens of Flavor. Queens because they run it together.
I enjoy to cook it, she enjoys to make the coffee. So. Some days we're happy, some days we're angry, so but still together. So.
And flavor because that's what Natty says separates her from the competition. Around 10 a.m., Natty starts heating things up while Carmen prepares the salsa packets before the afternoon rush starts around noon. On good days, Natty and Carmen can make $1,200, but they spend over half their income on expenses like cart storage, cleaning, and ingredients.
We sacrifice a lot. We're coming back to the house, we're coming late, tired, we don't want to do anything.
For more than a century, food carts have helped New York City's immigrants start small businesses of their own. In the 1800s, millions of immigrants poured into New York City, many of them without money or job prospects.
These immigrant groups, especially Eastern European Jews, have a history of peddling in the old country because of the anti-Semitic laws that made it difficult for Jews to work in different professions.
That's Catherine Piccoli, who works at the New York City's Museum of Food and Drink.
There was a real interest in this profession because you could make your own hours.
Pineapple, grapefruit, orange, tomato.
A push cart offered a way to survive. It was cheap to buy, portable, and required no rent. By the end of the 1800s, around 5,000 New Yorkers were operating push carts. They sold grocery items like fruit, pickles, and fish, mostly to their own communities.
You're walking the streets trying to sell your wares. So you have this really heavy wooden cart that you're balancing and walking around.
But New York's narrow streets were getting packed, so city officials started to intervene. In the late 1800s, the city began requiring vendors to carry a license to legally sell food on the streets.
To sort of count them, understand the work, be able to regulate the work, because so much of it was unregulated.
Fiorello H. LaGuardia, do solemnly swear.
In 1934, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia took office and launched a sweeping crackdown to clear vendors from the street. He called food carts antiquated and unclean.
He's looking to, quote, modernize New York City. Part of this is because the World's Fair is going to be held in New York City in 1939.
One of his solutions was to open 10 indoor markets and move vendors inside.
Public markets that we still use today and love, like Essex Market, were part of this program that he started.
But the indoor markets had more rules than the streets.
A big one being that you had to be an American citizen. You couldn't hawk, you couldn't cry. Many street food vendors at the time had signature cries or calls to announce themselves, their location, what they were selling. The street cries of the food vendors would have been in many different languages. So outlying them in the public markets is also a way of Americanizing people and saying, you know, we can't have different languages here.
The markets had limited space and required a stall fee, so many street vendors were pushed out of the trade. By the time LaGuardia ended his term, there were only 1,200 people selling food on the street, a 92% drop from before he took office.
pretty immediately you have people across the city saying, you know, we're really nostalgic for selling food on the street because it really defines New York City.
The 1965 Hart-Celler Act opened U.S. immigration to regions beyond Europe, including Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Like the Jewish and Italian immigrants before them, many of these newcomers started with food carts, one of the most accessible ways to build a business. The diversity of New York City's food carts exploded too.
We see the shift begin to happen where most foods sold on the street are meant to be eaten on the street. There are hot dogs, there are halal plates.
The stainless steel food carts we're familiar with today grew in popularity, offering more space and appliances to cook with. By the 1980s, there were about 12,000 carts, nearly as many as there had been in the 30s before Mayor LaGuardia's crackdown. Businesses and pedestrians complained that streets were getting overcrowded again. In 1983, Mayor Ed Koch imposed another limit, a cap of 3,000 permits certifying that a cart was legal. In 2021, the city agreed to raise the cap to nearly 7,500 permits over 7 years. But that's still not enough to meet demand for the city's 20,000 mobile food vendors.
Any food vendor to operate in a lawful way, they are usually required to have two documentations on them. One is a food vendor license, that's for the individual themselves, and there is also a food vending permit that goes on the cart or the truck they are selling from.
Mohammed Atsi is the head of the Street Vendor Project, a nonprofit advocating for street vendors' rights.
The food vendor license is not a problem. It's very accessible. The biggest problem that we have is the food vending permit. People have been waiting 20 years, 25 years. There were actually more than 10,000 names on that wait list. So right now, as we speak, the waiting list is closed.
To avoid the wait list, many vendors pay to rent a permit from someone who already has one, even if it means paying a higher price.
A permit that costs $200 to obtain from the city and renew every 2 years will cost the vendor up to $25,000 in this underground market. This is what's happening with vast majority of food carts and food trucks we see here in New York City.
Some vendors caught in the system say they feel trapped by the high costs.
It's a big loop. And the more I'm in here, the more I realize that I got stuck.
P.D. Stathopoulos has been working in food carts since 2013, when he was 18 years old.
My grandpa started the hot dog cart business in like the 70s to 80s in Central Park. And then slowly my dad trickled into it.
In 2023, P.D. met a cart owner who was retiring and let him take over the permit.
Thank God the guy was really nice, and he only charged me like $8,000.
P.D. paid another $35,000 for the cart and this spot on 32nd and Park Avenue.
It is like an imaginary logbook. You don't really go where other people are making money because now you're being a leech. Now you're taking money off their plate.
Even in prime locations, office attendance in New York City remains well below pre-pandemic levels, shrinking the morning rush of customers. P.D. is also facing rising food and storage costs and growing competition.
Fast food, DoorDash, you just pick up the crumbs to survive.
Soaring costs have forced vendors to raise prices, a trend Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani called halalflation during his campaign.
I lost half of my customer base when I raised my prices a quarter. Just one quarter.
And because permits have to be renewed every 2 years, PD has to pay up all over again.
You just worked all year to save up some money, and then you got to give this guy another $8,000 just to be able to work again.
But some pay even more for a permit, only to get scammed.
So if someone, say Sam, can rent me their permit and I can use it on my cart, there is no contract between me and Sam. Basically, Sam is taking the cash under the table. The problem with that system is that there is a lot of exploitation that happens because Sam knows how much I need them.
Vendors still pay because getting caught without a permit can lead to criminal charges and jeopardize their immigration status.
They can confiscate your property, all the food on the cart, everything that you have.
The NYPD has issued 918 criminal tickets for vending through July 15th, 2025, up 16% from the previous year. And even with a permit, vendors still face risks.
There are so many rules that you have to follow as a food vendor in New York City. You cannot be in a bus stop, you cannot be on a taxi stand, you have to be 20 feet away from every building entrance, you have to be very close to the curb, like literally 18 inches. We have the health department, the sanitation police, the NYPD, all these different agencies can actually come to your business, perform an inspection, they can arrest you, they can give you a ticket, they can give you a $1,000 fine.
As federal immigration raids increase nationwide, many vendors are afraid to risk working on the streets. The ones still operating say the pressure is wearing them down.
Y no solamente stickers, es la persecución, el estrés. Me he enfermado de la presión y tengo que tomar pastillas todos los días.
Since December 2023, food vendors have taken to the streets, urging the City Council to pass 4 reform bills. In 2025, the City Council passed one of the proposed bills, ending criminal penalties for licensed vendors and reducing them for unlicensed ones. Vendors are still pushing for the rest of the package, which would create thousands of new permits and make it easier for vendors to get training and support.
What are we waiting for? How many vendors are we waiting for them to be deported, for the council to wake up and start doing something?
A New York City Council spokesperson told Business Insider that reforming the street vendor system is complicated, and they're trying to balance the needs of vendors, small businesses, and neighborhoods while avoiding harsh enforcement. The New York City Health Department states that there's no delay in issuing mobile food vendor licenses or permits, and that it has released all applications it is legally required to. It also says inspectors regularly check the permitted street carts and trucks to promote food safety. With a new mayor taking the stage, New York City's street food and the people who built their lives around it enter a new chapter, with vendors watching closely.
Merecemos respeto. Somos trabajadores esenciales de esta ciudad. Detrás de cada uno de los comerciantes no está un carrito de tamales, está la responsabilidad de la familia.
Every year, Frank's Red Hot churns out more than 20 million gallons of hot sauce at this factory. The raw pepper mash arrives in rail cars from New Mexico to Missouri, before getting mixed and agitated in 5,000-gallon tanks.
The smell, it's strong but sweet. You'll definitely feel it in your sinus.
Competition in the industry is heating up, with hundreds of small craft sauce makers cooking up creative flavors.
The changing demographics have had an effect also on heat acceptance across, because the cultures are starting to interconnect.
But Frank's, which has been around for more than a century, is still America's #1 hot sauce brand. So what's the secret behind this iconic American condiment? And how has it managed to stand out in the hot sauce market? Frank's Red Hot is manufactured in this 50-acre factory in Springfield, Missouri. Cayenne peppers that are already mashed up into a paste arrive here in 20,000-gallon rail cars.
We always have pepper mash ready to be making Frank's Red Hot all day, every day.
That's John Martins. He works at the spice giant McCormick, Frank's parent company. It bought the hot sauce brand in 2017 as part of a larger acquisition worth $4.2 billion.
We're checking these seals down here just to make sure that no one has touched that rail car.
John's team has to measure the spice and viscosity of each batch so they can get the ratios just right for Frank's Red Hot. Then, they attach a tube that carries the mash to one of these 5,000-gallon tanks.
So we're in our tank farm right now.
All 15 in here are full.
So this is what the pepper mash looks like before we convert it into Frank's Red Hot upstairs. So what we want to do here, we're going to turn the agitator on just to get it moving as well. You can tell it really has a strong smell.
This one might have a little more punch, so they dilute it with a milder batch. They mix them together in what they call the blend tank. Frank's biggest secret is in how it mills its peppers.
We have a unique process in the way that we make Frank's Red Hot, which is part of what maintains the flavor of the pepper.
Milling is what gets the sauce to go from this pulpy mash
to this. Then, workers perform what they call the slick test.
This is what we do every hour. We perform visual checks to make sure there are no particles too big or too small in our samples, so we have good product ready to be bottled. This is how it looks good.
So now that we've made our Frank's Red Hot sauce, what we're doing next is sending it to our bulk tanks for storage.
On an average day, the company makes about 130,000 gallons worth of Frank's Red Hot.
Here is one of our large tanks for storage. We'll turn through these tanks over 10 times a day. You want to come up here and take a look? I wish you were here because this smells amazing if you could taste it through your nose. And if that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will.
From here, the sauce travels through a network of pipes into a different room where it gets turned into one of Frank's 155 products, like its buffalo sauce or chicken dip. The company has 12 packaging lines.
We make hot sauce into everything from 12-ounce bottles that you see in your refrigerator, gallon bottles that you see at the restaurant, or 300-gallon totes, or all the way up to 45,000-pound tankers. They can all be sent simultaneously through this maze of piping behind me.
And to keep it moving, each of these machines has to run at a precise pace. This capper can close 100 bottles in just 1 minute.
As we come further down the line, we're going to pass through an X-ray unit. We're going to make sure we're only sending out quality product all day, every day.
The facility pumps out about 20 million gallons of Frank's Red Hot every year. It ships these all over the US and to 48 other countries. Frank's journey to becoming the most popular hot sauce in America began more than a century ago. In 1918, a man named Jacob Frank was running his own spice company in Cincinnati. He wanted to make a sauce like Tabasco's founder did, but with a different kind of pepper, cayenne. He got his first batch from a farmer in Louisiana, and together they started processing it into hot sauce. It was somewhat similar to Tabasco in its high vinegar to pepper ratio, but Frank had his own secret in the way he milled his peppers to help them retain their flavor. By 1900, he'd perfected his recipe and launched Frank's Red Hot. Since McCormick bought the company 8 years ago, it's more than doubled its international sales. At this test kitchen in Maryland, Hadar Cohen creates new recipes for Frank's that you can find on its website or the back of the bottle. Today, she's making buffalo wings and cauliflower bites.
To make the sauce, I'm going to use Frank's, the original sauce. It has all of those really nice buffalo flavors that we're expecting. It's getting this really nice orangey hue almost. Hot sauce is a really, really great shortcut in many cases to build that flavor in the dish itself.
She says many Americans prefer Frank's because it's not too spicy.
People want different ways in, and maybe, they don't have that high tolerance, but they do want to enjoy that tang, that little bit of heat. Delicious.
Another way Frank's is competing with craft makers is by introducing new flavors, like hot honey and dill pickle hot sauce. In 2024, Frank's also introduced $1 minis.
To ensure that we overcome that risk barrier. Hey, will I like it? Will I not like it? Should I use my money on that or not?
Another reason why hot sauce has become more popular recently is changing demographics. In the 1990s, America was becoming more diverse. A wave of immigration introduced spicy dishes from all over the world. And heat slowly started becoming more popular.
I grew up in Mexico. My boyfriend is American, but he eats a lot more heat now because I bring that to the mix.
In recent years, hot sauce has become one of the most popular condiments in America. Between 2019 and 2021, sales shot up almost 22%. The global hot sauce industry in 2024 was valued at about $3.3 billion. And that's supposed to double by 2032. In the US alone, the industry is worth about $1.1 billion, with 90% of Americans saying they eat hot sauce.
Gen Z and millennials as well, they're generations that are very open to flavor and to heat. They want to experiment, they love trying new things, and their heat profile keeps growing over time.
So Frank's launched a number of campaigns tapping into Gen Z trends.
Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Even on pizza?
Add nachos and wings.
The company teamed up with Fortnite in 2023 to release a game mode called The Floor is Flava.
A custom immersive Fortnite island where we turn lava into flava.
A year later, Frank's launched what it called an edible NFT and spoof cryptocurrency Bonecoin to celebrate buffalo wings before the Super Bowl. In fact, the Super Bowl is its biggest week as Americans load up on chicken wings lathered with Frank's.
Wings on 3.
In the US in 2024, people consumed 1.4 billion chicken wings the day of the Super Bowl. And Frank's hot sauce sales are 25% of the entire hot sauce sales in the US during that time. We try to ensure the brand is present in moments that matter. We don't have to push ourselves into a Super Bowl. We're already part of it.
While trends come and go, the people who make the hot sauce say its success lies in its simplicity.
Take a look at that ingredient statement. There's only a couple flavors that are on there. If you see what the first one is on there, it's cayenne pepper. It's a very clean hot sauce, and we're looking forward to make it for a very long time.
Laser Wolf is what we call a shipudia, which in Hebrew means a grill house. So everything, as you're about to see, is centered around our grill.
Order in eggplant.
Eggplant.
Fire Zeno. Salad team for 2 going to 208.
We know for a fact that we're going to be busy every night starting at 5. Tonight, we're starting with 274 covers on the books, expecting probably between 30 and 50 walk-ins, so we'll end up somewhere in the 300s. We have a super strong team, and they just get it done. Come on. So, Millie and Natalie here grilled off 14 cases of eggplant today. How much pepper? 4. So that's 100 pounds of red peppers. They spread them all off on this grill, steamed them for a little bit, they're peeling them, and this will all be ready for our prep for tomorrow. All 3 restaurants in the Hoxton Hotel are Israeli, so all of our prep that we do in this building is for the whole building. We kind of share everything, and that's what makes things more efficient. This is Rafa and Yannette, our butcher extraordinaires, building all of our skewers. They're married, believe it or not. They've been here since before day one. They are the backbone of this restaurant. They make everything perfect. And we all get really upset when they're gone because we can't do it like they can do it. We cannot.
Aproximadamente tenemos entre 1 hora, hora y media para acabar 120 skewers de pollo.
Hoy ya nos dejaron 120 pollos, 120 hangers, 6 de salmones, 30 pounds de cóctel, 20 de beef and lamb y 20 de beef.
Bueno, nosotros ya lo tenemos bien calculado, ¿verdad? La gente dice que se ve fácil y lo hacemos ver fácil. Y hay compañeros que han venido y no se les dificulta. Entonces nosotros tenemos que tratar de que el skewer vaya todo plano, flat, para que cuando vaya al grill no vaya colgando.
Y eso es lo importante. Es lo que le gusta al chef, que vaya la pieza no perfecta, pero sí casi. ¿Ah? Y para que el cliente diga, wow.
Quede satisfecho. Su paladar del cliente quede satisfecho.
Pero al igual nos encanta porque pues al saber que la gente está probando nuestro trabajo, el trabajo de los chefs, todo eso, pues es decir, wow, estamos en 5 estrellas.
The best.
I love it, chef.
Love you too. All right, let's go say hi to the rest of the team. Thank you, guys. They're the best. They're actually the best. This is Howdy.
Howdy.
It's the first time we've ever heard that.
I'm sure.
Sorry, we're going from Laser Wolf, which is on the rooftop, to the main floor, which is where Kfar is and where our main prep kitchen is, that all of our shared prep happens. It's where the rest of the magic happens. These are our guys right here. Everyone say hi. This is Avellino grinding our meat for our butchers right here. He's grinding that meat because it needs to be ready to process first thing tomorrow morning. We've got Juana, Rosario, and Matilda, our prep manager. So right now they're cutting our sumac onions, so our red onions that we mix with sumac and some vinegar, some salt, a little sugar. And this is gonna go on the side of every kebab that we serve tonight. So we have to make this one daily. They're about to pick and cut some herbs for tomorrow, so when they come in, all they have to do is mix. There's a lot of stuff to balance, and they're the ones that kind of make a lot of sense out of everything.
Es interesante porque al final aquí ellos siempre nos tienen como, ¿tú qué opinas? O ponemos una receta, ¿tú qué opinas? Porque todos los paladares tenemos diferente gusto. Y pues nos dan opción de opinar, de si está bueno, no está bueno, aporto esto, quítele esto. Entonces es bonito trabajar en equipo, más que nada para trabajar para.
You're not going to tell them about your dish at Kfar? A burrata toast with apricot amba. She took a little apricot amba home, which was one of her favorites, and put it on some toast with burrata. Told me that she loved it. I'm like, we're gonna put that on the menu, so it's Matilda's toast. Yeah, exactly. Don't be embarrassed. It was delicious. Yeah, exactly. Matilda and her cousin Lorena came up with this program that makes everything work a little easier. They're always thinking a day ahead. I mean, I can show you what we're working with here. This is just Laser Wolf. This is Raf and Yannette, who we just met, the butchers. This is Kfar AM, Kfar PM, Kfar chefs. Rafa and Yannette right here. If I were to try to do this list with one other chef, this would probably take me about 16 hours, I want to say. And they'll get it done in 8. They're amazing. They're really, really amazing. And they didn't even come in with any butcher experience. They just knew how to cook, they knew what they were doing, and went from there. All right, guys, so it's 4:16 right now, so about 45 minutes until service. I'm about to feed the fire with some more charcoal real quick. Get it up to temp. Just the way that we grill things here, we pay a lot of attention to where our fire's at. So what we're doing is we're letting our charcoal burn as hot as possible right now. So when we get to service, it's been burnt out enough that we have our proper cooking temperature that we're looking for. Because if you try cooking a kebab on top of this open fire, it's gonna taste like cigarettes in your mouth, and that's not what we're looking for here. And at the beginning, that was actually an issue, is like people were starting their fire too late, and then 5 o'clock hits, we're busy, and we're like, well, what do we cook with? So at least an hour before service, probably an hour 15, we light our first embers, get it to burn out, so we're in a good spot once service starts. So as you can see, the way the line works, one giant grill, we have a fryer over here, and our salatine station that they're very nicely setting up over here. So here at Laser Wolf, we do a little bit of a prefix menu. So every table starts off with a variety of 10 different salatine, which are Israeli-inspired salads. Earlier in the day, we remixed all the salads that the prep team made, re-seasoning them and tasting with me, added more olive oil, salt, herbs, whatever they needed, to make sure that everything that we serve tonight is exactly what we want it to be. So we had a last-minute hiccup before service, a little family situation. So Jesus over here started the day on salatine, and he slid over to our fry station. Thank you, Jesus, for being so accommodating. And then Anna from our prep team slid over to salatine to come help out. In case there's a call out, in case we're late, in case someone's on vacation, we all have to be ready. Even if it means like 5 minutes before service, something happened, you need to change what you're doing, that's what we do. All right, so Sergio's about to fire off our tasting skewers. One of each skewer that Raf and Yannette so beautifully made earlier today. just to make sure that the seasoning is right for the rest of service. They're spot on pretty much every night. We still go through the process because that's what we have to do to like just make sure that we're staying on the right track. But we trust them very, very, very much at this point. Or if we have to say, you know what, we can't serve this tonight, that's what we have to do because we'd rather only serve things that are right, you know? So what you're seeing right here, before we were letting all of our coals burn out, you see no flame whatsoever here. We drill it into the cook. It's like the first thing we teach them, like before you focus on whether this is well done or medium rare or whatever you need it to be, it's like, no, you focus on the coal first and then everything else. Like that is where you start. And if you can't master that, then you can't really work the station. And you can see just by looking at it, how close the meat is actually to the charcoal, which means you don't need nearly as much as you think you would to get a beautiful sear on this. I mean, this hanger has a perfect crust on it and there's barely any charcoal under it. It's because it's been burnt out right and because everything is so close to the fire. There's a lot of fat in there, but we keep our fire at the right temperature that when that fat drips down, all we see is this beautiful smoke and no flames. If there's ever a flare up, we move all the skewers, reset our fire, start again. So we have good color on both sides, just about ready. Gonna give them a little squeeze just to see their doneness. That one's good. Serge, do you want to be the master skewer taker offer? You're the man with the plan, bro. Yeah, of course. So if you see what he's doing, he's actually pulling the skewer out and keeping his tongs as the pressure, as it's coming off. So you're not pushing the meat off, you're pulling the skewer out and keeping the skewer in place. When we're serving all of these kebabs, they have their own garnishes and certain sauces that go with each one. But for the purpose of actually tasting for seasoning, we're gonna keep everything plain. So I kind of like to work from least spicy to most spicy, so you don't have one spicy bite and that kind of like affects all your other bites. But if you zoom in a little closer, maybe a tinge of pink here, not as much in this. So nothing's gonna be like medium rare like you would expect a burger when you go to a steakhouse. But look how much juice is on the bottom of this plate. Everything stays so juicy because we grind all of our own meat, we don't overmix it, and we keep a large amount of fat on the meat as we cut it. We don't trim a whole lot off. Those are our skewers for the night, all tasting perfect. So yeah, I guess in theory, if we were in a pinch and we're like, you know what, this brisket doesn't have enough salt in it, maybe we look for a batch that was, if these were made yesterday, that were made today, and we just won't serve anything with this date on it. But nothing gets older than 2 days. If it turns out that all the brisket in-house doesn't have enough salt, then we just can't serve that for the night. Knock on wood, I can't remember the last time that happened with any of our proteins. We do taste it every day. But it's a good way to keep each other in check and just make sure that like you don't do 300 covers in a night and then be like, wait, this has no salt in it. That's what we really serve to 300 people. You just gotta stay on it. You gotta stay on it. So as you see over here, Anna is setting up our salatim. Salatim is kind of the engine that keeps this restaurant running. You can't serve any of the skewers until the salatim are on the table. If we fall too far behind on salatim, then everything else struggles. You know, all of service struggles. We're all waiting. And she's lining up all these trays, so when everyone piles in at 5 o'clock, we're just going. We're just going. 6 minutes until service. We have 274 covers on, and we can fit about 100 people in here. A little more when we open up the patios, so that would mean 3 full turns of the restaurant tonight.
Solid team for 2 going to 310. Solid team for 2 going to 209. So when the ticket comes in, I write the table number on here. The solid team chefs also get a ticket, so they bring it up to the solid team. As soon as the solid team comes out, then we're gonna send that out and I'm gonna write the time on the top, and that's when we'll indicate exactly when to fire. Order in eggplant. Fire alitas.
Eggplant. So our vegetables are eggplant, cauliflower. As soon as they get ordered in, I get some color on them. So they can slowly cook and be ready by the time we fire. We also do the same thing with T-bone and bronzino. We fire it out earlier than the skewers because they take longer to cook.
Solid team for 2 to 309. Thank you. All right, Sammy. You ready? It's your time to shine.
108, 209, 406, 208. All right, let's fire 2 chicken, 3 steak, 2 lambo, 1 kofta, 1 brisket, 1 salmon.
Necesito uno pita, por favor. Gracias. Salad team for 2. Seat 2 is gluten-free. Is going to go to 20. Thanks, Heidi.
And 1 salmon as well. You could send that out first. It's going with my dorade.
Fire alitas, that's 2 all day. Necesito 4 pita, por favor. And then it's coming with that cucumber with no seasoning. Oh, you got it. Didn't see it. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. 1 big metal, 2 regular, 1 salmon.
Salad team for 2 going to 302. Fire foie. Jesus, dos alitas, sí? Yeah. And uno foie.
Trabajando duro, como Jesus.
Order in Cali.
Cali.
Kale tabbouleh going to 406.
406.
Salad team for 4, cucumber no seasoning going to 403.
Look at that smoke, bro. That's what we're looking for.
Salad team for 3 to 17.
All right, Bappo, we're going chicken lambo, double steak, everything else together on a big plate. So I call his skewers, obviously, let him get set. Then we're gonna let him know how he's gonna plate it, just what plates he's gonna need. And then we're about 3 minutes away from plating. I'll let him know what skewers are going with what. Because if you give him the information too early, it's like, okay, what did you say 10 minutes ago? So it's just like, what do you need to know now, what do you need to know a little later on? And I know, like, whatever, we've already talked about it a million times, but just how perfect his fire is, how there's no flare-ups, you know. And it's not always like this. You can see when we train a new grill cook, it's just like every second, you're like, okay, you have a fire, you have a fire. It's everyone's tendency to get your grill as hot as possible when you need to cook things fast, but like, you kind of need to fight that urge, and that's what Senor Sergio is so great at.
Fire papas fritas.
That's a Lambo, right? Yeah. I was like, what garnish do I put on that? Look at that, baby. First pick in the books. It's the first time we've ever done this together.
Chicken, steak, brisket, kofta, lamb and beef, and uno más rice. Yeah, 2 rice. It's going to 406.
All right, Sergio.
Thank you. 209, 1 pita.
Let's fire 2 chicken, 2 steak, 1 is medium, 1 Lambo, 1, 2, 3 salmon. Sorry, it's 4 salmon, not 3. That's it.
So we have 1 more salad team 2 coming up. That's when the printer went out. And it's gluten-free, so cucumbers. Thank you.
So we flash fry our eggplant to get it nice and soft. Some nice grill marks on it. Some nice peeled sun gold tomatoes with some schug. Some shipka peppers. Crispy garlic, crispy shallots.
Order in Zeno.
Zeno.
4 arroz, por favor. I'm just waiting for salad team, so just give it a sec.
Let's get that first one out.
Salmon, eggplant, rice going to 20. Can we go foie 101? Let's go chicken, steak, lamb and beef, and a salmon. Going with the rice to 403. Order in Cali.
That's less fun than a Zeno.
Fire Zeno. Sammy, after you put that Zeno on, I'm ready on a couple.
Me too, baby. So this is our bronzino right here. Completely deboned, stuffed with some ginger, tomato, and garlic cooked down. We're gonna cook it on one side, cover it with a bowl, flip it over, and then I'll call my next ticket that goes with it. 17101.
17101.
Serge, let's fire 2 steak, 1 Lambo, 1 salmon.
Necesito uno repollo, por favor. Repollo. Gracias.
One of those steaks is solo, and then you're going steak Lambo together.
I think one of the cool things for us too is like we do 350 covers a night, and it feels this tame like throughout the entire night. They're like so good on the line, and everyone's been doing this for so long that it's just like comfortable and smooth and easy. So, salad team for 5, going to 401.
It's our cauliflower with confit pine nuts, shawarma spice, a schlug tzatziki, some fresh scallions on top. It's been a day one of our very favorites.
All right, we're gonna go steak, dorade, cauli, rice, 17. Let me know when to fire the fries on that.
About 3 minutes.
3 más pita, por favor. Salad team for 2, going to 203. Papi, on 206, we're gonna switch this lamb and beef to a brisket.
No, not this one, a later one.
Fire papas fritas. Okay. Steak instead of the salmon? Yeah. Okay. Fire steak.
Fire steak, please, solo. It's under.
They just didn't like the salmon. All right, salad team for 2, going to 301. Order in eggplant.
Eggplant.
Necesito repollo, piña y 3 pita, por favor. Salad team for 2. One person has a gluten allergy. That's at seat 1, 311. Salad team for 4, going to 201. They have a peanut, salmon, and egg allergy. They are totally fine. 1 pita, going to 17.
Just gotta be confident with it. So we're gonna finish that with some citrus salt. Some more of that ginger tomato. Make sure that it was stuffed with. Just a little bit, it's pretty strong. Try not to plop it on the plate like that.
Okay, I need 1 pepino regular.
Couple limones. And all the herbs.
5 arroz, por favor. Let's go lamb and beef, Zeno, and a rice, going to 103. 103. Sammy, can I add 1 ticket whenever?
Yeah.
Let's go on 206.
As soon as we clear it out, we're gonna go on a brisket salmon.
Steak solo, going to 302.
Solo.
You can bring a rice.
Bring a rice?
Yeah. Order in 3 coulis, 1 eggplant.
Okay, Senor Vegetable.
Let's go chicken brisket rice, 203.
Chicken brisket rice, 203.
Let's go lamb and beef, steak and a rice, 207.
I feel a lot more smooth than I thought I would, honestly.
Let's go, buddy.
Love you, brother.
We got a bunch of salad team coming up right now. Let's go salad team for 8, going to 408. Fire alitas, fire papas fritas. I need salad team. I need salad team for 2, 5, and 2. Salad team for 2 to 308. Yeah, I just want all the salad team's been 10 minutes, so I want to get the salad team
You
out
just
first.
need a
and then
5,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Just a 5, solo uno cinco.
And then I have refills, but Fire foie.
Of course.
All right. We're gonna go salad team for 5. It's an avocado allergy. We do not have avocado.
bro,
They're
always.
good. 404.
Behind you.
Dos pita, por favor.
Come on.
Fire papas fritas. That's 3 all day. Sammy, I got a big one coming up.
What's that?
I got a big one. Heidi, we're gonna go with these wings for 8 people to 408.
Behind you. 301, 201, 311.
And 306.
306. All right, Sergio.
Necesito tomate, por favor.
Let's fire 2 chicken, 1 steak, 1 kofta, 2 brisket, 3 brisket, 1 Lambo, 1 salmon. Should be 9 skewers all day.
Thank you, Jesus. All right, French fries. We are gonna go to 311.
311.
Solid team for 2, going to 310.
Isn't it awesome when everything's flowing though? Like, it doesn't look like anyone's working crazy hard, right? They're just doing it. It's controlled though, controlled, you know?
Order in Zeno.
Zeno. Now we're going down. That's a pretty quick fire, right?
Yeah, I do have a big pick coming up too after this.
It's fine. Platos. Chicken steak double brisket.
You got a solid team for 2
Chicken
coming up
Lambo. Brisket solo, kofta solo.
too? Sammy, you're good to fire that Zeno now.
All right.
Solid team for 2, going to 202. Necesito uno hummus, por favor. Buzzy, you good?
You got a brisket solo.
All right, we're gonna go chicken, steak, brisket,
In my
with the
face,
rice
Aaron.
going to 201. You ready, Sam?
15, 409, 408, 308.
408, 15, 308, 404, and 310.
No, 15.
No, 15. 408, 15, 308, 404, 310.
So everything but 401.
Yeah. Pita for 6, pita for 2, pita for 2. Perfecto, gracias.
All right, guys, we're about an hour and a half into service. The first turn was super smooth. We had a little juggling to do on the line before we got started, but everyone's where they belong. We're open until a little after 10:30 tonight. Looking forward for a great night. Thank you guys for joining us. It was awesome.
California grows 99% of America's pistachios, even though the crop isn't native. This year, U.S. farmers expect another record harvest, and they're racing to keep up with new demand, fueled by the Dubai chocolate craze. But trying to supply all these nuts is getting harder than ever, because pistachio trees need a lot of water, about twice as much a year as tomatoes, one of the state's other top food crops.
California doesn't just produce the majority of the nut crop. California produces the majority of the fresh fruits and vegetables in the country. They're not being prioritized right now.
And as droughts get worse, the state is tightening its water supply, threatening farms and businesses.
As a smaller grower, my mindset needs to be on how we can survive.
We visited the world's largest producer to learn how, despite the challenges, they've managed to keep expanding, with orchards that could blanket Manhattan 4 times over.
Because we planned ahead. After a while, you get pretty good at it because it's not if a weather event will happen, it's when the weather event happens.
So how did farmers build a multi-billion-dollar pistachio industry in some of America's driest counties? And as water supplies grow even scarcer, which crops will survive? Pistachios aren't native to California. Their origins can be traced back to Central Asia and the Middle East, where people have eaten them for millennia. The region has a climate similar to California's, with mostly dry summers. These plants have always been picky, so big harvests were hard to cultivate, even in their native land. Pistachios were regarded as a luxury, mentioned in the Bible as one of the choice fruits of the land. Around 330 BC, Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire and brought the nut to the Mediterranean. Pistachio farms began popping up in Italy and Spain, and by the 1800s in France. A seed distributor named Charles Mason brought the first pistachio nuts to California in 1854. In the years that followed, many tried to cultivate trees here, but they didn't take well to California soil and barely produced nuts. However, the US Department of Agriculture liked that pistachio trees could survive droughts. So in 1929, it sent its botanist to Iran to find more productive seeds. He brought back thousands, and eventually one thrived. He named it Gedman after the Persian province it came from. Over the next century, an entire industry grew in California from that single Iranian seed. Today, some of the oldest pistachio trees in the state can be found at Keenan Farms. They were planted before 1972.
The industry was almost literally non-existent.
Bob Keenan and his father Charles started farming pistachios on just 100 acres. Nowadays, the family gathers nuts from 20,000 acres.
My father and I would laugh, going, can you imagine we'd ever be something like that?
To grow this many nuts, they need fast machines. Like these, that can shake off as many as 15,000 pistachios in just 5 seconds. Only trees with long, healthy roots can withstand the force.
They're so big that sometimes it's even hard to shake them because they're just such a large trunk. It takes so much force and energy.
Zach Raven oversees the harvest.
That kind of just tells you they're ready right there when the hole we call slips right off.
It takes about 7 trees to fill one bin. The goal is to process 130 of these trailers by the end of the day. And this goes on for 8 weeks. Pistachios are one of the most expensive nuts to grow. Farmers can spend about $20,000 per acre before a single pistachio is produced.
You're putting so much investment in watering it, giving it nutrition, pruning it. It's a risk. It's a gamble for all growers.
And it takes 6 years for these trees to produce nuts, twice as long as almonds.
That's a long time with not getting anything in return as a grower.
Unlike other nuts, which produce both male and female flowers in a single tree, pistachio plants have just one or the other. Only the females produce the nuts. The crop needs plenty of water during the summer to yield a big harvest. 1 acre takes more than 1 million gallons of water. That's enough to supply 10 households for a year.
It's always about timing when it comes to these trees, giving the right amount of water at the right time.
Throwing off this balance can leave up to half the pistachio shells empty.
A lot of them are blanks, and there's a blank right there.
Keenan's first commercial harvest in 1976 was just 500 pounds. Today, the company produces millions, more than the entire state's first industrial harvest in the mid-70s. Back then, Iran still dominated the industry, exporting 20 million pounds of pistachios a year to the US. But things started to change after 1979.
Several hundred Iranian students seized and occupied the American embassy in Tehran.
They held 52 American workers and diplomats hostage in what's known as the Iranian hostage crisis. In response, the US restricted imports on Iranian pistachios. That opened up a market for California growers.
A lot of like-minded farmers invested their time and energy and resources into building an industry. Day by day, year by year, we learned a little bit about the processing, which was new to California.
In 1980, the state grew 27 million pounds of the nut. But a year later, Iran released the American hostages, and the US lifted its embargo on the country's pistachios. Iran started shipping nuts to the US again.
We couldn't face those types of competition, so we had our lobbyists and lawyers do some work.
Keenan Farms and a few other growers petitioned the government to launch an investigation into Iranian imports. The US International Trade Commission found Iran was selling pistachios for less than they were really worth, even cheaper than it cost to grow them. It's a strategy known as dumping, pricing goods below cost to squeeze out rivals and gain market share. In 1986, the US slapped a 241% tax on pistachios from Iran, a tax that holds to this day.
And that helped our industry grow and become profitable.
By then, the Keenans already had their first machine, designed specifically for pistachios, called a huller. At the time, they hand-fed it. Today, it's automated. Water softens the skins so they come off without damaging the shells. Once they're dry, Keenan stores the pistachios in these silos. The big ones each hold up to 2 million pounds worth.
These windows gives you an idea of how full they are. Hear that good solid sound? Solid pistachios. Yeah, it's nuts.
And all those nuts have to get processed. That's where Bob's son, Mitchell Keenan, takes over.
Morning. We can store about 10 million pounds inside this total warehouse here. How many individual pistachios? Oh my God.
25 times 16, so that was 2 million.
Maybe 4 billion nuts, somewhere around there. It's a lot of pistachios.
First, computers scan for rotten pistachios.
So we try to look for any kind of sticks or rocks that might have made it into the product. No consumer wants to have insects in their product.
The sorted nuts go for a ride through these tubes, which move them to their next station.
It's basically a replacement for a conveyor belt. Kind of the modern way of transporting nuts now.
Next, they are sorted by color into 5 different chutes. Then, these workers go through the pistachios again to look for defects. If the nuts make the cut, they'll go here to get sized.
Pistachios range from, really tiny pistachios to big stuff. Average consumer wants an average sized pistachio.
The smaller nuts, as well as the closed and dark ones, are sent to the sheller.
This is where the closed shells turn into kernels.
But they have to sort these kernels too, and that's trickier.
A lot of the defects can blend in, like right here. That's called spotting, so that's a defect right there.
About 60% of Keenan's business comes from outside the US.
This product's going to India. So they're going to take the product and they'll actually roast it there.
The company packs and ships about 25,000 boxes on an average day.
It's crunch time right now.
40 miles south, the world's largest pistachio grower, the Wonderful Company, farms the nut on 60,000 acres, an area about twice the size of San Francisco.
I am out here generally a couple times a week.
Rob Raceborough runs Wonderful Orchards for its owners, the Beverly Hills billionaires Stuart and Linda Resnick.
I started out as the Resnick's banker, and so I financed their first purchase of a pistachio orchard in 1986. Stewart said, well, this is a fantastic product, but the U.S. consumer is unaware of its health benefits, and so he took it upon himself to introduce consumers to a new product. At that time, I certainly didn't, and I doubt the Resnicks ever thought that they would become the largest pistachio grower in the world.
In the early 90s, California's entire pistachio harvest grew on just 50,000 acres, smaller than Wonderful's orchards today. By then, the Resnicks had reportedly captured about half the state's pistachio market.
Some trees produced many more than 13,000 nuts, and some trees didn't produce as many. So they said, let's see if we can identify these trees that produce so much better than the rest. We can clone those trees. Then about 10 years ago, we had successfully perfected the process to replicate those trees and to grow those, and we started planting those in a big way.
Today, Rob says Wonderful's trees produce 20 to 40% more nuts than the average pistachio tree, using the same amount of water. Now, the company handles about 800 million pounds of the nut per year. That's more than 500 times California's first industrial harvest. Rob says they don't leave it up to chance.
This is California. There's going to be periods of drought. Let's plan ahead. But let's make sure we have the water.
Early farmers in Southern California soon discovered that the soil quickly dries to dust during dry spells.
For hundreds of years, farmers in the arid South looked for ways to water their crops.
In California, the fundamental water problem or puzzle is that most of our water is in the north of the state, and most of the demand is in the south.
So in the 1950s, the state pitched a massive new water delivery system called the State Water Project, which would pull water from Northern California. But districts could only access this new system if they paid the state back for construction. Voters approved the project in the 1960s, and California began building. With hopes of more water coming their way, farmers began planting more crops, including what are called perennials, like pistachio trees, that don't need to be planted annually. They can survive droughts, but to produce a harvest that's profitable, they need a lot of water.
Otherwise, that loss is, millions of dollars, depending on the size of your ranch. We have to keep watering them. We can't stop because the financial outcome would be just too huge.
But farmers soon learned the state had been overly optimistic, estimating that the project could deliver up to 4.2 million acre-feet of water per year, when it would eventually supply much less than that. The state couldn't build every canal it had originally planned, and other regions already had contracts to pull from the same rivers.
We also have water rights holders that have obtained their water right before 1914, when we actually started keeping track of it, meaning they will take their share out first.
New environmental rules enacted in the 1970s and recurring dry spells also limited how much water the state could transport south toward farms. That was an issue for places like Kern County, where millions of nut trees were maturing in the early 90s and needed water.
With the expansion of perennial tree crops, we've created this problem that we're up against.
Then, one of the longest droughts in California's history, from 1987 to 1992, made the problem even worse.
Water shortages resulted in a cut of up to 50% to agriculture.
In the early 90s, the state stopped water deliveries to Wonderful, which relied entirely on that supply for about half its crops. Many growers in the area turned to the aquifers to keep their trees producing.
The aquifers exist in layers, right? So you can think like shallow, medium, deep. Once the shallow is overpumped, the farmers with resources go down. So the other major impact of overpumping is that domestic wells that serve people's homes and, local businesses, and they run dry, right? And then you're talking about people with no access to water. That's been a huge issue.
But even farms, including Wonderful's, couldn't pump what they needed because groundwater supplies were low in large parts of Kern County. That's where California was exploring a new water bank that would capture excess rainwater from across the state and store it underground. But the project stalled for years. They eventually found a path forward. A new entity called the Kern Water Bank Authority would take control. It was made up of local water districts, agencies, and a private company owned by the Resnicks, who gained about 57% control. According to Wonderful, it earned this share by paying off part of the $50 million it says was still needed to get the bank running, and by giving up some of its water deliveries, which the company says would be worth over $170 million today.
In the 90s, very few people wanted to give up entitlement to take this risk on an unproven concept of banking water. Stuart Resnick said, okay, I'll take a chance.
The investment paid off fast. The company, whose pistachio crop was about 250 times the size of most growers, now had access to a system that could store billions of gallons of water in rainy years. And as luck would have it, in the mid-90s, California logged some of its wettest years on record.
We've always said, let's not max this out. Let's always make sure we have enough resources that we can be sustainable when dry periods come.
Many still object to Wonderful's outsized share, because court documents indicate that the state had already invested around $74 million to develop the bank, partly using residents' water bills. And now, the main stakeholder is a private company.
It's public water that we've paid for that in times of plenty should be stored for the public, for the people.
There are players in the system that have a disproportionate level of power. The Resnicks are not the only such private interests involved, but they happen to be the largest ones.
That's stirred up a century-long debate. Should water rights be privately controlled?
Do you think it's ethical?
I think it's important that people always have water.
There's been a lot of misinformation about the Kern Bank, especially during state emergencies.
With regard to the wildfires in LA earlier this year, for example, LA gets its water from a completely different source, but it has absolutely no connection to the water that the Wonderful company owns or controls in Kern County.
That's because there's no direct infrastructure to quickly move the water from the Kern Bank to where firefighters needed it. But the Department of Water Resources did clarify that the Kern Bank does help supplement state water deliveries to many public entities during periods of drought. Meanwhile, environmentalists say focusing only on the Resnicks misses a much bigger point about the state's water management.
As the State Water Project shows, if they promise water that doesn't exist and have us try to pay for it, the environment's getting trashed and the wrong kind of crops are being grown and there's no water for it.
The Department of Water Resources told us its water project was designed with the best data available in the 50s and 60s. It also said that even though deliveries will likely keep shrinking, the state is working on new infrastructure to keep water flowing as droughts get worse. Still, in the rat race for more water, small farmers are suffering. Rebecca Kasser has watched her family's land dry out. She helps run Avalor Moor Farms in the Central Valley. Just 9 years ago, her land was filled with pistachio and almond trees.
We were 100% planted out, meaning that all of our acreage had something growing on it.
But her district has younger water rights, so when there's a drought, growers here are among the first to see cuts. farmers used to be able to pump enough groundwater to keep their trees producing during droughts. But in 2014, California passed a law called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, which barred growers from pumping more groundwater than natural sources like rainfall could replenish. In some districts, each piece of land was assigned a set number of water credits. But that often wasn't enough for thirsty crops. So to keep their trees producing, farmers left some fields unplanted, a process called fallowing.
We fallowed out over 60% of our farm so that we'd be able to have the water in order to irrigate our plantings.
To save their pistachios, some farmers were forced to buy more land just to collect extra water credits, and left the new fields unplanted.
So we started picking up more fallow acreage, 20 acres here, 20 acres there.
Ultimately, SGMA could take about 900,000 acres out of production in California's main crop-growing region by 2040. That's roughly 20% of the irrigated farmland in the San Joaquin Valley. Reports project that much of the remaining cropland could go to nut plantations, like pistachios, with acreage expected to grow by about 40% between 2023 and 2031.
The folks that have the water are using it on their high-value tree crops, to the detriment of other things.
California doesn't just produce, the majority of the nut crop. California produces the majority of the fresh fruits and vegetables in the country. And if the ability to do that gets impacted, you're going to start to see price shocks.
As for which crops take the biggest hit,
is very much a function of whether any of the farmers have more or less access to whatever surface water is available.
And Wonderful has that advantage because of the bank.
The best thing about the water bank is it doesn't use groundwater. It uses stored surface water. It's a tool that you can use to manage through droughts.
Wonderful has shifted some pomegranate and almond acreage too, helping to double plantings of its top crop over the past decade.
And part of that is because of how we view the market and our leadership position in the pistachio industry and what kind of competitive advantage we have.
We could brand every one of our wonderfully delicious pistachios with the word wonderful on them, or we could just write it once.
My mission is to get the world to eat more pistachios.
Diana Salsa helps run marketing for Wonderful. The team led the company's 2009 Get Crackin' campaign, featuring new packaging.
More people were aware that pistachios now came in this iconic black bag. Before that, pistachios were really sold in bulk.
Within just a few months of the launch, Wonderful's sales surged more than 220%.
That honey? We invest millions of dollars consistently to make the whole world aware of pistachios.
By 2016, the US was dominating the global supply, outpacing Iran, and has remained the top producer ever since.
The Resnicks have invested over $1 billion to be able to handle the demand as our supply and trees continue to grow.
In America alone, Wonderful Pistachios was retailing $1 billion worth of nuts annually by 2020. 3 years later, the Dubai chocolate trend boosted demand fast, and has already driven pistachio kernel prices up nearly 35% between 2024 and 2025. And this year, California growers are expecting their biggest harvest ever. Experts now project the pistachio market will grow from about $5.6 billion in 2025 to over $7 billion by 2030. The US supplies more than 60% of the world's pistachios. And until this year, China was largely the top buyer. But they've imposed tariffs on American nuts, making them more expensive. As a result, imports dropped by over 50% in the last year. That's opening a door for Iran. to take some of the Chinese market from the US. The country has remained a big player, supplying about 16% of the world's pistachios, mostly to China, Turkey, India, and the UAE. Only a tiny share of Iran's pistachios ever make it to the US. Each year, New York City restaurateur Nassim Ali Khani brings back a single bag for herself from her trips home to Iran.
I was in Iran in February, and I just brought this with me. They're meatier, lighter. Clearly see a difference between these and what we have here in this country.
She runs Sofre, a Persian restaurant that highlights ingredients from her homeland.
Pistachios hold a quite special place in my heart, as well as Iranians.
She made us a few sample items from her menu.
From very early on, I realized pistachios are a real treasure and they should be acknowledged as such. See this? This is nice. We use them in this very elegant shape. Look how tiny they have been sliced.
She reserves that single bag of Iranian pistachios for one cookie on the menu.
They are so delicate that we use them as a garnishes for really special dishes.
But sanctions have made Iranian pistachios hard to find in America and much more expensive. So she rarely cooks with them.
It would be exuberant in terms of the cost.
She says prices have soared in Iran too, as tensions escalated with Israel this year, disrupting supply chains. Extreme weather has also made it hard to keep the conditions just right for pistachios. So they've become even more precious and expensive.
Right now, many people can't afford it. By just being eliminated from our sphere of our eating habit, then it becomes part of the culture being eliminated in the long run.
Preserving those authentic Persian flavors matters deeply to Nassim, and it's what keeps her regulars coming back.
When I think of Persian food, I think about pistachios. There's a really special connection that I want to pass on to my daughter, and coming here is such a wonderful way to share a part of my culture with her. I think we didn't have access to Persian ingredients. We lose out on the things that make food rich, the things that make food zesty.
I live for pistachios. I'm Syrian. I was born in Syria, and they're very big on pistachios. It's a very nostalgic image.
The restaurant's most popular dessert, saffron ice cream, is made with California pistachios. But Nassim still uses them sparingly, acutely aware of the true cost of this nut.
It's been a pattern in this country that we get somebody else's seeds and we grow it and we make it bigger. I am sure that somebody's suffering. Maybe a small farmer is suffering. Maybe land is suffering. Something is not right because these pistachios are kind of inexpensive for what they should be.
Back in California, Keenan Farms is still trying to keep some of the oldest groves productive.
This is one of the original plantings in California, and she's still producing. It's kind of neat. It's kind of like you're in a museum, you know? You're part of something that started many, many years ago.
The Keenans say they would have never predicted back then how hard it would eventually be to keep these trees producing.
Consistency of supply, that's where California has thrived. It has grown its production to meet the needs of all countries around the world. And that creates the demand even against competitors such as Iran.
But that demand means farmers need to keep up, no matter how challenging that may be.
So as a smaller farm, we've had to be really innovative and resilient with regards to the water issues that we're dealing with. We want to do right by the soil, and we want to take care of the resources